sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday, the 19th of February. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio and all over the world online. So wherever you're going, you can take us with you. But obviously, be careful if you're going out because it's still stormy outside.
Yeah, it is. And if you miss anything in today's show, you can catch up via the GB News app. Coming up for you this morning, one of the worst storms to hit the UK in decades rages on. 4 people have died, more than 1 million have been left without power, and the cost of the damage is thought to be more than £300 million. Storm and flood warnings still in effect, so we'll get the latest from our reporters across the country.
Joe Biden has said he's convinced Vladimir Putin has already decided to invade Ukraine, as satellite imagery shows new Russian troop movements, with helicopters and tanks moving closer to the border.
And the Prime Minister has returned his questionnaire about alleged Downing Street lockdown parties to the police. So what next for him?
So it's all going on, and you can join in any of our discussions this morning by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews.
Now, if you were really caught up in the storm yesterday, or there's the aftermath that you can see today, we'd love to hear your stories. Get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk. Any pictures that you've got as well. It would be really interesting to get a picture of what has happened over the past 24 hours across the country. And I'm sure plenty of you have got tales to tell. And Diamond.
Yeah, it was a rough ride home, wasn't it? I must say, driving up the motorway, as I was doing yesterday, it was like somebody was chucking debris at you the entire way. And I worried if the windscreen was actually going to hold up. And then, as I turned off the motorway towards my village, literally on the slip road going up, a tree came down, whang, over the entire carriageway. And it blocked, you literally couldn't get off the slip road then to get into the village.
I mean, that would have been fatal.
It could have been fatal if it had hit a car, and there were several cars in front of me. Luckily for us all, there was a lorry with a tractor on top of it and some very wonderful workmen who literally just got out of their lorry and made it their business to get rid of the tree. And we wondered what on earth they were going to do. There was no way we could have backed down the slip road. I mean, that would be ridiculously dangerous to do and rejoin the motorway. So we just had to sit there and think. And I was thinking, should I get out and film this? I'm a journalist. I should get out and film this. But it was so scary. And there was so much debris flying around that I I didn't, and I don't know whether I should have now. But thank you so much to the guys who, in the end, they took the tree to bits in the end and moved it to the side, and then we all drove past and got out of the way. But, I mean, they were wonderful. But if that tree had come down on top of a car, it could have killed.
And that would have been, when you hear about the fatalities, very often it's trees coming down.
It is, mostly trees, isn't it?
You think it's all nice to have trees in the garden and tree-lined streets and all the rest of it, but then...
I must say, it was interesting, as we drove past the remnants of the tree that by then had been shoved to one side, you could tell that the tree was an old one and an unhealthy one, you know, it was sort of dried out. And I think that's the biggest danger, isn't it? It's, I think a healthy tree with healthy roots in the ground is probably less likely to come down, but it's the old ones, and they can cause an awful lot of damage.
Well, the house across from me, and I don't quite know why that was affected, nobody else seemed to, but they lost loads of tiles.
Oh, really?
Loads of tiles came off yesterday.
And that's awful as well, because the rain that then follows, and
yeah,
how long is it going to take to get that fixed?
Oh,
and we had wheelie bins rolling down the road and rubbish everywhere flying around. It was
I noticed
awful.
driving out through London yesterday morning that it was like there'd been a festival with the amount of rubbish everywhere. Really grim, really grim. So we want to know what happened where you are, and of course, it's not over yet because a yellow weather warning is still in effect for parts of the UK today. That is hindering the clean-up operation after Storm Eunice. Yes,
as we've been saying, 4 people died as winds reached apparently 120 miles an hour, and over 1 million homes left without power.
Well, there was plenty of flying debris. It caused major disruption to rail and road networks and significant damage to homes and buildings, including ripping part of the roof off from the O2 in London.
Yeah, it's on the front page of many of the newspapers today.
I mean, that's
the O2, with an enormous amount of it actually just completely destroyed.
I think that's how it's only about 3 millimetres thick, that cover.
Yeah.
Very, very taut. So I mean, how they're going to?
They're going to have to cancel a lot of gigs and everything there.
Mick Hucknall was meant to be on last night.
The what?
Mick Hucknall.
Was he? Well,
so
that would have been an open air gig that he wouldn't have wanted, I'm sure.
Well, let's get the picture then from across the country. We've got reporters in West Yorkshire and Wales for us this hour. So let's cross to Yorkshire and have a reporter, Anna Riley, who's in Dewsbury for us. And what's been the situation there, Anna?
Good morning. Yes, it's rather wet and windy this morning. There's a warning out, a yellow weather warning, for ice. There's been gritters out on the road that I've seen. And there has been warnings out there for wind as well. There's been 60 to 70 mile an hour gusts of wind that have been going on. And it's been a real picture yesterday. There was roads closed, Humber Bridge closed for the 4th time in its history of opening, and it opened in 1981 because it was that severe, the weather conditions. With the rail as well, and public transport, that was delayed with many trains being cancelled, and Leeds Bradford Airport was affected as well with arrivals and departures. More than 500 people woke up this morning still with no power in their homes across the Yorkshire region, and it's had an impact on attractions as well, so attractions like the Yorkshire Wildlife Park and other parks had to close because of the wind, and there's warnings for more rain as well across the weekend, so we're looking at floods as well, potentially flooding to homes and businesses. That's another thing there to look out for.
Oh, it's a worrying situation. Anna, for now, thank you.
Our reporter Bradley Harris is in Wales. Bradley, hello. How are things going there?
Well, as you can see, the wind is still picking up. I've come 25 miles west of the Welsh capital to the seaside town of Porthcawl in the county borough of Bridgend. The last 24 hours have been a whirlwind, quite literally. Most schools in Wales have been closed. Transport trains, for the first time ever, were cancelled. All trains in Wales cancelled. 2 lorries overturned on the M4 motorway, and certainly here in Porthcawl, people have been experiencing huge gusts of wind. A record gust of 92 miles an hour was seen just off the Pembrokeshire coast yesterday. Here in Porthcawl, though, just a bit further up the seafront, there are still houses with sandbags on the front to prevent big waves coming over and stretching into people's homes. Many residents across South Wales have seen roofs being ripped off, big trees fallen over. It's certainly been a dramatic picture here in South Wales. At the moment, the Severn Bridge, the M48 Severn Bridge, is still closed. Inspectors are going to be taking a look at that later this morning and decide whether it's still safe to open the bridge. The Prince of Wales Bridge is open, though, and bridge operators say that this is the first time since the second bridge was opened in 1996 that both bridges yesterday had to close. As you know, normally I report in the northwest. I was travelling down to South Wales on a 4-hour journey. Many people still travelling very slowly, 50 miles an hour. There was a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit on the M4 yesterday, and a large part of the M4 on the junction going into Pyle in Bridgend was closed off. Big cones cordoning that off because of the 2 lorries that overturned there yesterday. So certainly many people will be trying to find out how they can carry on with the rescue efforts from the impact that South Wales has seen. The Met Office has issued a yellow warning for wind for the rest of today. Yesterday, of course, they experienced a very rare red weather warning, which, as we know, is a risk to life. That ended at 12 o'clock yesterday afternoon. That then changed to an amber warning that then finished at 9 o'clock last night. We're expecting 40-mile-an-hour winds later this morning that'll last for about 4 to 5 hours from around 8 or 9 o'clock this morning. So we're still not at the end of this yet. Expect many more gusts of wind to come, but the worst of it is over.
Bradley, it's interesting, isn't it? We've spent most of the day yesterday telling people not to go out if they didn't need to, because that was the official advice. But you, as a reporter, had to be out. At times, it must have been quite overwhelming and probably quite frightening, was it?
I think, yeah, for many of the reporters here in GB News who were out and about yesterday, you saw the images. It was very windy. When you have particularly a rare weather warning, which is the red weather warning from the Met Office, which is a risk to life, of course, the official advice is to stay indoors and only travel unless it's absolutely essential. For many journalists up and down the country and those who need to get to work, that is essential, to get out and actually show you what the big picture is, why you shouldn't be outside, and actually what the Met Office weather warning means. Of course, today, as a reporter, I can stand here in Porthcawl and tell you what is going on. It's a yellow warning for wind. I can be outside, and many people are out in Porthcawl this morning. A few delivery drivers on their way to a few restaurants and shops delivering bread to bakeries this morning inland into Porthcawl. At the moment, certainly at the minute, there's nobody at the ice cream parlour behind us. Probably a bit too cold for that now, but still, as you can tell, the wind is still picking up. The waves not as dramatic as yesterday. It's a little bit calmer now, but as you can see, the flood defences are here if things do pick up. But the Met Office has already said that they're not expecting things to be as bad as they were yesterday. Gusts are only going to reach around 40 to 42 miles an hour. But still, people here, residents on Porthcawl seafront, have still got their sandbags out just in case anything worse happens in the next 24 hours.
Brave man. Thank you very much, both of you, for reporting from those terrible weather conditions. But that's still the advice, I think, from all of the authorities, is don't go out if you don't have to, and don't go out and take selfies. That's what the big warning yesterday was, you know, just because the waves are up here and things are falling all over the place, don't be tempted to go out and take a selfie. It's not worth it.
Yeah, well, if you want to ring my house later and pass that on, my other half wanted to go out yesterday in the wind.
What, and you said...
Said no.
No.
But you see, fearless soldier. soldier's fear.
Yeah, but you can't be fearless because you just don't know what's going to hit. Like I said, that tree that came down in front of me could have come down on a car. And we had trouble getting hold of my sister last night. I'm sure she's watching, right? She lives in a cottage in the middle of absolutely nowhere in Dorset. And the last thing she texted to us at about, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon was, my phone's going to run out of battery, please don't worry. But, you know, there's no electricity in the house. And then we were all saying to each other, have you heard from her? Have you heard from her? What's going on? In the end, we managed to get hold of her through neighbours.
Right.
But, yeah, that just shows if you are cut off from electricity and obviously your batteries only last for so long, then you really are stumped, aren't you? And that's, I think, going to be the position a lot of people are in today. It must be awful having no electricity at a time like this when it's stormy outside.
I say for the whole weekend, just don't take any risks. Just be sensible. It's not worth it because a lot of those trees are weakened now, and they're talking about more trees coming down today as a result of that.
However, if you do have any pictures that are taken safely, maybe from your window, we'd love to see what it's like in your area at the moment. Then do send us your pictures. It's gbviews@gbnews.uk. And if you've decided to have a duvet weekend, just stay indoors, because that's what I'd do. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Well, watch GB News, obviously, but apart from that.
Also, as it's morning, and I know this may sound crackers, but our team out there, are you a bath or a shower person? Because I get mocked repeatedly.
Are you a bath?
But I like a bath.
Me too. I had the shower taken out. I got a little ensuite. I had the shower taken out and a bath put in.
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, for heaven's sake.
See, my lot here...
There's nothing better than a bath.
They just laugh at me every morning when I come in. They say, have you had a bath this morning or a shower?
Oh, no.
Every morning.
Oh, no, absolutely. It has to be a bath.
Yeah.
Because then you can put all the stuff in as well, your essential oils.
Oh, I can't faff about with
No, all the stuff you get at Christmas, you know. All that lovely stuff you get at Christmas, that's what it's for.
Yeah, well...
And it makes the whole room smell fantastic.
Well, that's true.
I love all of that. And the candles.
So let us know what you do
I
in the morning.
had a lot of candles for Christmas. I love scented candles, right? So, and when you place them around the bathroom and you make it all look lovely, I mean, that's gorgeous. And then I noticed that actually some of them give off this sooty deposit. And my tiles are all sooted up.
Oh.
What do you do about that? I suppose you have to have one of those little, like a candle holder with a canopy to catch the soot. Well, yeah, but I mean, you shouldn't do that, should it?
Well, some do. It depends if it's soy wax or whatever other wax it is.
I don't know. They were expensive candles.
How do you get out the bath if it's all surrounded by candles? How do you get out the bath without singeing yourself?
No, you have to be very careful. But I've got I had for Christmas a gold candle snuffer.
Oh, blimey.
Oh, so posh, I can't tell you.
A candle
It's got a long handle and you can snuff the candles.
All right.
Yeah.
There you
You've
go.
not heard of a candle snuffer?
Well, I've seen one in...
See them in churches.
Sort of thing. There you go. It's right posh round your house.
Oh, around in my bathroom it is, yeah.
Oh, there you go. OK, let's bring you up to date with everything else that's going on today at 6:16. And Downing Street says the Prime Minister has handed in his Met Police questionnaire regarding allegations of parties held in Downing Street during lockdown. Operation Hillman is looking into whether COVID restrictions were broken at Number 10 and across Whitehall over the last 2 years.
Meanwhile, Boris Johnson will tell leaders there's still a chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed during a visit to Germany today. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference, the Prime Minister will say allies need to speak with one voice to make the Russian president understand the high price of invading Ukraine.
Well, meanwhile, Joe Biden says he's convinced the Russian president has decided to launch a further invasion in Ukraine. He says he has reason to believe it will occur in the coming days. So that's what we heard last week. It will include an assault on the capital, Kiev. He cites the US significant intelligence capability for the assessment.
The NHS is to stop taking cash from the gambling industry for the treatment of people suffering addiction. NHS England said the decision had been heavily influenced by patients who were uncomfortable about using services paid for by the industry, a view that's been echoed by medics too.
2 in 5 shoppers received a substitute product in their latest online grocery order, according to a new poll. Aldi was the most likely to use substitutions, followed by Sainsbury's and Asda. Some of the stranger replacements include duck paste instead of duct tape and sausage rolls in place of toilet rolls.
No. do think substitutions do drive you mad, don't they?
You can decline substitutions.
You can,
can't you?
yeah, but you have to be quick on the mark to do that, really, don't you? You have to do it while the delivery man is still there. But I mean, sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls.
What's going on with you people? Because these are people who go around the shops picking it up.
I think so. Yes, you see them doing it, don't you?
So they must know what they're doing. They're just having a laugh, aren't they?
I think they must be. Do you think they are? Is there anyone watching at the moment who does that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, we'd love to hear from you. Put your side of the story. We may make fun of the substitutions you give us, but maybe there's a reason.
Yeah. We can keep you anonymous if you want to keep your job.
Yeah.
If you do it deliberately, that would be great to hear from you this morning. If you've had some really weird ones, get in touch as well. gbviews@gbnews.uk. I also know, because I order things like, Diet Coke or whatever, because I'm type 1 diabetic. And if they haven't got it, they'll just bring you the full fat, which I just can't drink.
No.
So,
silly.
time.
Yeah, absolutely. Duck paste instead of duct tape.
Love
that
it.
wouldn't be much good either, would it?
Mind you, how can you get duct tape at a supermarket?
Oh, you can get anything, can't you?
Can you?
You can order a microwave oven, a couple of hair curlers. Oh, yeah.
I wonder what you'd get if they didn't have a microwave oven in.
I don't know.
to think.
Absolutely.
Microwave pasta, probably. Just another quick thing before we head to the break. 28,000 Saudi women have applied for 30 train driver jobs advertised in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Women in the Conservative country have only been permitted to drive since 2018. After 1 year of paid training, 30 successful candidates will drive bullet trains between Mecca and Medina.
Wow. Spanish railway operator Renfe, who are conducting the training, say they're keen to give jobs to women in their local business.
Progress.
28,000 applications, though.
Progress, though.
Yeah.
Every little move forward.
There's an appetite for it, which is interesting, clearly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's plenty to talk about today, as you can imagine. Do stay with us. There's lots more to come. And we'll be speaking to a journalist on the ground in Ukraine. That's after the weather.
Hello again. A very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England, as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, there's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel. If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
.24, this is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne on your TV and on your radio across the whole of the UK and worldwide on the internet.
Now, let's talk about the Ukraine situation again. And it's incredible. We've been talking about it for so long now. And every time you do, you sort of get a different opinion from a different corner of the world. I mean, for instance, President Joe Biden has been saying last night that he's convinced that Vladimir Putin has already decided to invade Ukraine and has reason to believe it's going to happen in the coming days. But as you pointed out, he said that last week.
He did indeed. Well, the estimated number of troops now positioned on the eastern border between Russia and Ukraine has risen to, we think, more than 150,000. But let's speak to Stefan Whiteshirt, who's a journalist who's near Ukraine, near the border with Russia as well. I mean, what's the situation as far as you can tell, Stefan?
Well, I can say that from here, from eastern Ukraine, the situation is getting more and more tense. By that I mean, you know, that reports about more Russian soldiers getting to the Ukrainian border and is starting to take its toll on people living here. People are starting to get more nervous. There's still a lot of people who are, you know, saying that this is not going to happen. And overall, people are going on with their lives as they used to. But there are an increased, increased number of people who are getting nervous because of this, especially after the news that also an explosion happened in the separatist-held area, Donetsk, yesterday. And there's increased number of shellings. I mean, that's mortar attacks along the front line the last couple of days, which we haven't seen in eastern Ukraine, where the war has been waging since 2014 for quite a long time.
Seem to be increasing tension, but we're watching it from the outside. You are watching it from within. What is there a feeling of tension, of that anything could happen at any moment?
Yes, for sure, there is. And I would say that tension is only increasing by the day at the moment. In the city I am in, for example, yesterday night, we had also a problem with the internet connection that was lost. From some cables apparently being cut. So there is a lot of nervousness about that. And I can see in the pictures now you're also showing that kindergarten that was bombed. I was also at that kindergarten a couple of days ago to see that for myself. And what people are saying at those city and in that kindergarten is that they're really worried every time something like that happens, that this is actually now, you know, that it is now Russia is going to invade Ukraine again. So there's a lot of people who are nervous.
And yet, the president of Ukraine is I mean, he's tried to sort of play a very calm note, hasn't he? I mean, clearly there is concern, but he's raised a voice of caution, hasn't he, saying that some of this rhetoric from the United States is not actually very helpful.
That's true. He has done that, and he's done that repeatedly. I don't know why to say why that is, but I've read that some analysts are saying that it's just simply because he doesn't want to cause panic. Because while the president is saying that, for example, when I'm talking to people near the front line, the ones who are like mayors, the ones who are in charge of, the cities near the front line, they're definitely preparing. So while the president say, take it easy, the people who are employed by his government out close to the front line are making evacuation plans, are making bomb shelters ready, all this kind of stuff. So even whatever the president is saying, the country is on edge, and the country is preparing. Both the military and the civilians to some extent, but also like mayors, etc., people who are head of the administrations of these zones close to the front line.
I mean, you're a journalist. What will you do if you sense that an invasion is actually going to happen, or if you see it happening? Will you stay and report, or have you been advised to get out?
I think my Danish government have told me to get out. I think they told every Dane, like the British government also have told, is to get out. But it is my job to report, so I will continue to do that as long as it's safe. But we don't know if Russia does invade. We don't know on what scale it's going to be. Is it going to be the whole country at once? Then, of course, evacuations will be necessary and quite fast. Or are we talking something a little bit smaller scale at the beginning? Then I think I'll probably, try to stay as long as I can and report, which is basically my job.
Well, yeah, well, it is. Stefan, really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I mean, it's an interesting point on what reporters should do. I mean, it is the job. Someone's been in touch this morning on email saying reporters should not go out during the bad weather. It is risky. Well, it is a bit risky.
It is, but it's your job. I mean, it's like war reporting, isn't it? As Stefan there is going to hopefully not become a war reporter. And yeah, reporters have to stay and tell us, because otherwise we wouldn't know. That's the job of journalists.
Sticking with the storm, P. Bentley says the South has had it a bit worse than we did. He's in North Wales, where he had a winter storm, or she. Trees down were soon moved and put in wood burners. Enjoy power. Well, I think they're saying they enjoy power cuts. There can be something quite homely about a power cut.
Well, yeah, it's like we were talking about candles yesterday, isn't it? Do you have candles under your sink, in the cupboard under the sink, like we always used to have?
As long as it's only a short power cut, otherwise stuff in your freezer is going to start going.
That's right. Well, then you just have to eat everything that's in the freezer.
Fair point.
Yeah. Yeah. And baths. We were talking about, are you a bath person or a shower person? We're both bath people, aren't we?
We are.
Baths are really dirty, says Brian in Billinge. Baths are really dirty. You're bathing in your own dirt. It depends how dirty you are, doesn't it?
I don't think it's that bad. Mind you, a lot of scientists say that we're too clean now.
That's right.
So because we're not getting enough germs and things, so we don't build up that natural.
Yeah, but I don't have a bath just to get clean. I have a bath because it's luxurious. And if you've got a bad back, you've got a bad back.
Yeah.
It's a bath. A hot bath is absolutely wonderful. It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's lovely. Keep the hot tap running a little bit.
Yeah. Very hot.
Until you could brew tea in it.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Anyway, keep your views coming in, please do. GBViews at gbnews.uk.
But coming up for you, we'll take you through the papers. That's in just a few minutes.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. You're listening and watching Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. We're live across the UK on your TV and your radio.
Oh, yes, we are indeed. Let's look at the papers for you. The Express is showing the damage to the O2. As it says, Britain has been battered by a killer storm. The paper says the clean-up bill is going to be about £500 million.
£500 million. The Times says it was a day of destruction as several people died and flights and trains were axed.
The head of MI5, Ken McCallum, has said Britain is in a struggle for our way of life, according to the Daily Mail, as China and Russia compete to target MPs for spying.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a moment. Government advisers are warning that lifting COVID-19 restrictions risks an 80% rise in cases. Nearly 48,000 cases were reported yesterday. That's 11,000 fewer compared with last week.
In the Financial Times this morning, they're saying Vladimir Putin blames Kiev for an escalation following shelling in eastern Ukraine, and in response, Russia will bring forward planned nuclear drills.
Don't you just hate it?
Oh, that's helpful.
It gets worse and worse. The rhetoric gets worse and worse. Whether or not the situation is getting worse or worse is up to various experts. It's time to go through the papers now. Joining us this morning is anthropologist and TV presenter Marianne Ohota and the editor of Spiked magazine, Tom Slater. Good morning to both of you.
Hello.
What are we starting with, Marianne? Storm Eunice.
Yes, the big storm that had us all trapped, staring out of the windows, or perhaps doing stupid things like, as you were discussing earlier, going outside to try and take selfies, or maybe go for a swim. Don't do that, folks. It's still an amber wind warning across much of England and Wales, heavy snow in Scotland, and then obviously so be careful today as well. There is still risk. And then in the coming few days, obviously, there'll be an increased risk from flooding. So all that heavy rainfall, snow that then starts to melt, obviously has a knock-on effect, and it takes a few hours, few days sometimes, for all that water to get into the river systems or surface water to drain off, and then properties, perhaps whole communities, are going to be facing flooding, which is also potentially, I mean, it can destroy your life in terms of ruining your home or your business, but it can also be a risk to life. And the reality is we're going to see more and more of these amber and red warning weather events in the coming months, years to come.
Hugely depressing.
Although it was the strongest storm in 3 decades, wasn't it? So it's not like it's happening all the time. Flooding is, I agree with you. We seem to be reporting on bad floods all the time.
Yeah, but the frequency, the Met Office have warned that the frequency of these big storms coming in is going to be greater. And so obviously there's a knock-on effect in terms of, you know, how we live, how much our lives are disrupted, whether people are at risk of losing their lives from being hit, what have you, by debris or trees or houses falling down. But it's also going to have a kind of more day-to-day impact because of insurance costs and things like that, because the insurance companies are going to be able to recoup that £500 million. Each time this happens, that adds up and ticks up on our premiums.
Yeah. Well, we all end up paying for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you are affected by flooding, I mean, it's the worst.
It
is.
It's
just the worst thing. It's awful.
Well, you've got a neighbour, you said the tiles were flying off the roof.
Tiles were flying off
If it
yesterday.
rains now, they're going to have a problem as well.
Yeah, they are.
It's miserable.
In the Mail, Tom, spying on MPs.
Yeah, so a really striking interview here with Ken McCallum, who's the head of MI5, just talking about what, as he sees it, the kind of new threats to the UK domestically, suggesting that it's a move away from kind of terrorism, homegrown terrorism, and that his focus and the focus of the people that he works with is very much on the actions of hostile states. So a few weeks ago, of course, we saw those revelations of a Chinese spy peddling influence via Labour MP Barry Gardiner and donations to him and his office, and him talking about Russia and China being kind of key states trying to do this kind of thing.
But what are they trying to achieve? Because we had Barry Gardiner on the show a couple of weeks ago. I mean, what information did you think they were going to get out of Barry Gardiner?
I know, bless Barry Gardiner, but, he wasn't necessarily going to turn UK policy on its head just on his own. I mean, this is the difficulty, I suppose, is that this is quite a kind of murky sort of situation. I mean, when we saw those headlines about Chinese influence being peddled in the Labour Party, it can sound quite explosive. And when it comes down to it, it is often quite soft, quite subtle. It's finding
but that
MPs
can be
who
pervasive, can't it?
It certainly can if there's not a check caught on it. But I think there's also, I suppose, the parallel, which is to suggest that it can cast a lot of aspersions on someone like Barry Gardiner, who might kind of unsuspectingly just find himself in receipt of funds because he thought that he was advocating on behalf of British Chinese people. So a very murky world, certainly, is what's being
Marianne?
Well, I think we have to remember that, there are troops massing on the borders of Ukraine, but a lot of the theatres of war aren't physical. It's cyber attacks. It's things that destabilise democracy, whether that's money that's getting into elections or referendum, or whether it's kind of popular opinion. It's all those subtle, soft influences that are actually have very real consequences of all those bots, the trolls online and social media that shape the conversations that are being had in what otherwise might feel like democratic countries like ours. There's a shape. The very obvious ones that aren't about nation states are things like the rise of the far right. That has an enormously corrosive effect, as you say, Anne, on the conversations that we're having, the attitudes that people might have towards fellow citizens, and the actions that are then taken out into the real world and have very real consequences on people's lives.
I mean, it may feel soft now, but it could, in the end, sort of influence free speech or certainly influence independence of speech.
I mean, that's certainly, because I suppose the sort of parallel is because there's been a lot of concern, as you say, Marianne, about the effect of kind of Russian bots or kind of, again, ways to sort of destabilise national conversation. That can also have its own kind of censorious effect. There's this kind of panic about the influence of some of these social media platforms, which I think is partly behind a lot of the moves to regulate the internet at the moment on behalf. So there's another side to that question as well, which is a concern that because out of an understandable concern about making sure that there isn't this kind of soft influence, that you can also see a kind of chilling of how these companies are open.
It's interesting in itself that the head of MI5 gives interviews.
Well, I was going to say that's unusual, isn't it?
So it seems to be something in recent months you've seen the kind of head of the security services be more open in this sense, or be more willing to have interviews. I don't know if this is clearly a kind of conscious shift on their part to try and
with a big picture of him in there.
Yes, exactly, a picture
exactly.
as well.
I wouldn't mind a picture taken if I was head of MI5, would you?
I imagine he's got, a decent security detail.
Yeah.
So, even so.
Go even further, kind of at home with,
No.
I'm very disappointed he isn't wearing a black suit and black sunglasses.
That's it, just backlit.
Marianne, can we have a look at the Mail and Pret-a-Manger?
So
it seems to be everywhere.
Well, indeed. They've got 470 branches around the country, but they are very concerned that they might not be able to continue trading, or certainly not be as ubiquitous as they are, because we're working from home and consumer demand for sandwiches, coffees, all the rest of it is much more volatile now, apparently. So you might pop into the office, but Pret don't know that, so they don't know how many sandwiches to have, they don't know how many baristas to have in the store. And so they're very concerned. They filed a £1.9 million profit in 2019, a modest profit. I think they've probably obviously therefore got very good tax lawyers, or very good, depending on how you want to frame that. But they posted a £296 million loss in 2020,
wow,
which obviously is not sustainable business.
No.
So
it'll be interesting to see what their 2021 figures are going to be like.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean,
they must be wondering about their business model generally now, mustn't they? Have we, as a society, changed our habits enough for them to have to rethink? Or will we go back to a norm?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you're working from home, you're probably not going to find your way to your nearest Pret to buy a sandwich to come back home.
No.
If you're in the office, then it's a nice excuse to get outside, maybe get some fresh air, walk around the block, all the rest of it. So they kind of go hand in hand, don't they? I mean, maybe the upside of it is that if Pret has decided that it can't find clever ways of, making loads and loads of money, those shops might be open and available for small, independent, local entrepreneurs, business owners. That said, maybe they can't make the profit either.
Where I live, and I'm not a big coffee shop sort of person in a way, but if you ever pop into Starbucks, Costa, Nero's or Pret, there's always queues around the block.
No, exactly. And my worry is actually that those kind of remaining sort of independent places in central London, the little greasy spoons, the little sandwich shops or whatever, are going to be probably even harder hit because they've been struggling to compete with these people anyway. And even though we're talking about kind of big companies like Pret, a lot of people who work there, a lot of people who fill those jobs are kind of young people, young migrants often, people who aren't easily going to find jobs necessarily. And I guess it's one of those things where we've seen this big shift during lockdown, something that suits a lot of commuters and a lot of people who, work white-collar jobs and all the rest of it. But again, a lot of problems for people who are, again, just at that kind of bottom rung of the service sector. That shift has not served them particularly well.
No. If you're a worker in one of these places, have you noticed a drop-off in trade, even when we're sort of getting back to a sort of normal now? I'd love to hear from you. GBviews at gbnews.uk.
Maybe we need another Eat Out to Help Out scheme. You have to go and eat a sandwich, to support the nation.
Drink out to help out.
You can do that too.
Run it in pubs.
Should we talk about Prince Harry, Tom?
Why not?
Because yesterday was the first day in court, wasn't it? This business of him wanting to pay for police protection when he comes here.
Yes, so this is a bit of a long-running saga now. So ever since Prince Harry and Meghan Markle kind of left the royal family, left the UK, there has been this question about protection, particularly when they return to the UK. So there's this legal challenge in the High Court at the moment where Prince Harry has suggested, his argument is essentially that he's offered to pay for his own protection. He doesn't feel safe in the UK and all the rest of it.
Well, he wouldn't be safe in the UK, would he?
Well, what's interesting is that in the US, the American state has refused to pay for their police protection as well. I'm not sure whether the threat is necessarily higher here or anywhere else. Obviously, as a member of the royal family, he's going to be a high-profile target for all kinds of horrendous people. But the point that the Home Office have been making is that whilst he did make an offer to pay for this, it came after his last visit, and also it's kind of not neither here nor there anyway, because you can't just hire the police to be your form of protection. So it's a difficult thing. He is a private citizen. He's not hard up for a few bob. You do wonder whether this is a battle we really want to be fighting.
Enormous Hollywood stars bring their families over here and presumably pay for their security. And they, I would have thought, would be a sort of under the same sort of threat as Prince Harry.
But there's the argument here, isn't there, that if he's a lot of the time going to be when he's over here with members of the royal family anyway.
Yeah.
There's going to be police protection there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that's a very good point. And also, it's not as if he would be completely unprotected. It's not as if he's a pauper, is it?
No,
I mean, you do wonder whether and why he's making this such a high-profile fight, given that it's such a, it's something which I think raises those questions about him again, about this sense of almost like having left the royal family but still having that sense of entitlement as to these sorts of protections.
Well, his argument is that he was born, as soon as he was born into the royal family, he is at high risk, which you have to accept. And he says that him having moved away, chosen to leave royal duties, doesn't make that any the less a threat, because that he was born to that threat.
I think one of the concerns is that if he were to bring a security detail from the US to the UK, they wouldn't have jurisdiction here. They wouldn't be able to, protect him with firearms and what have you, which they might require, which is quite right too, because I don't really want people with private armies walking around our streets with guns.
When your Hollywood stars come over here, they must have security details that they pay themselves and are presumably quite happy with.
Yeah, I wonder whether the risk to being royal and a celebrity is even greater. And one of the things that he wouldn't get, or his security detail wouldn't get, would be access to the intelligence network that otherwise protects the royals, because it's not just you sort of have-a-go criminal who might want to attack them. It's much more organised, sort of deep terror networks and whatnot.
I understand fully that the police are saying you can't just hire the police. Why don't we give him the security protection that we would normally give him, and then cost it afterwards and ask for the money back after that.
That does seem to be the nub of this particular kind of conflict, is they're suggesting this just, as you say, just isn't the done thing as far as they're concerned. But is that a good enough reason? It's not entirely clear. It's just a very sensitive issue, this, because as soon as a member leaves the royal family, what are they entitled to? How does the public feel about that? All the rest of it is difficult.
But yeah, we would have provided it anyway, and now just this time you can provide it and get some money back.
To me, that's the best.
I don't see what the
settlement
seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. Are we out of time? Oh, we're out of time. Oh, that's a shame. I was going to keep going there. Mary Anna Hosser.
Hi.
It's been a pleasure.
It has. Thank you.
Next time I want you to bring your young baby in, please. I mean, not next
Well,
time.
I'm coming back at half.
But next time you're in, because you just had another
Baby
one.
Leon.
Leon.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's very cute.
Oh,
he peeks up quite a lot, though. So
That's
it might...
I don't care. I don't care. I could sit here holding a baby.
We could do a picture next hour, couldn't we?
No, he's as in send a... Oh, yeah, OK. Is that a good idea?
I don't know.
I don't know about, with respect, the viewers of GB News, I don't know them that well.
No.
We're going a bit Prince Harry now, aren't we?
I've left my security detail out, so I'll check with them first. Yeah.
We can blur his face. That would be worthwhile.
You can show it to us privately.
OK.
So Marianne has a top sighter. Thank you. We will see you a little bit later on. Baby or no baby, who knows?
Shall we bring you up to date with what's happening today? A big clean-up is set to begin following the damage and disruption caused after Storm Eunice swept the UK and Ireland yesterday. The record-breaking winds killed at least 4 people and brought travel disruption, flight cancellations and power cuts right across the country.
The Scottish Government is being called to go further and faster with measures to help those struggling with rising living costs. Finance Secretary Kate Forbes has already pledged a £290 million support package, but the Scottish Lib Dems insist more is needed.
The Director General of MI5 is looking for an overhaul of the UK's espionage laws. Ken McCullum says the change is needed to tackle what he's calling a struggle for the country's values. He added that the UK's Official Secrets Act was also out of date and that the country is operating on the back foot.
2 in 5 shoppers got a substitute product in their latest online grocery order, according to a new poll. Most likely to get one from Aldi, followed by Sainsbury's and then Asda. Some of the stranger replacements include duck paste instead of duct tape and sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls.
They'd be useful. And it's a big weekend for British curling, with the men and women's teams in the final of the Winter Olympic Games. GB women beat reigning champions Sweden in yesterday's semi-final, and the men's team beat the USA for their place in the final. The men's gold medal match against Sweden starts very shortly this morning in Beijing. Who would have thought we'd all get so excited about curling?
I know. Well, Aidan McGee is here. Morning. I mean,
morning, how are you?
That men's final is actually starting now, right now.
Yeah, it's imminent in the next few minutes, I would have thought, so I'll be able to give you some updates on that later on. The broadcasters actually succeeded in bringing it, or putting it back slightly, because it was going to be a very early start. 6, yeah, it's not suitable for a European audience. You'd think they might have seen that coming in the last few days, but suddenly there's been some interest generated. And so the change has been made, but it promises to be exciting. We saw a thrilling semi-final yesterday in the women's
Do you understand
section.
it yet?
Not really, no. I mean, somebody
somebody
described it to me as I was on a train heading out of Victoria last week. I bumped into an old colleague of mine from the Daily Telegraph, and he said he described it. I mean, he was rushing home. He'd been to Borough Market to buy a loaf of bread, and he's rushing home. I said, why are you rushing for the train? He goes, I want to watch the curling, and he described it as housework on ice.
I'm sure
I thought about it. I thought, yeah.
Any curlers watching at the moment, have your say back to Aidan.
I remember seeing it back in 2002, I think. But I think Britain won a medal in 1924. So it's not new. It's not.
Oh
new.
no, but I mean, the Scottish women. There was
that was 2002 when they
was
got
that
gold.
2002?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, in fact,
it was absolutely incredible. That was.
Yes, I remember that.
But it's a weird old sport because we get passionate about chucking stones down ice and brushing it.
I know. I know. But it's tactical.
Oh, there's a skill. Also, there's a skill involved. I mean, you know, what affects the flow of the ball of the stone is just how smooth the ice is, and you have to make sure that everything's cleared in the way, and you've got literally like a split second to make sure everything's clear, and that directs the movement. So it's hugely skillful.
And the guys who are doing the brushing, I'm waiting for. They don't trip over anyone else's stone either. It's incredible.
No, that's right. The stones, the stones look beautiful as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very televisual, aren't they?
Yeah.
But something more unedifying, shall we? The boxing.
Well, I was going to say, if you're someone who's trying to lose weight, or stay at a weight. This could be the way to do it, because if you go a pound overweight, you're charged, what, about 100 grams?
£100,000, yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole build-up this week, I mean, this fight's been building up for about 11 years. It should have happened in about 2010 when there was actually a belt on the line. There's no belt on the line this evening. They've been avoiding each other for years.
So who are the contenders?
It's Amir Khan and Kell Brook. They're fighting this evening at Manchester Arena. They had to hit 149 pounds. Amir Khan saying he could have got to 147. Kell Brook just about making the weight as well. I mean, they're both looking in fantastic shape. But the point is,
Kell Brook was threatening to go a bit heavier, wasn't he?
Yeah,
weight advantage.
Yeah, he was. I think he was kind of bluffing in a way. He said he wanted to be bigger and heavier. It's probably a psychological statement more than anything. But the fact is, he had to meet this magic 149, and they both got beneath it. I don't think there was ever any doubt that they were going to get there, to be honest with you. But there's a feud. This is that stretches back 17 years. As I say, the fight should have happened around about 2010, 2011. They've both been previous world champions, and that's no longer the case. It's almost after the Lord's Mayor's show.
Why is there so much bad blood?
Because there's been it depends who you believe. I mean, each camp has been claiming for the last 11 years at least that they've been avoiding each other. Now, you never really know the truth unless you're in the maelstrom of negotiation.
It's deliberately hyped up, isn't it?
Oh, without question, Anne. Yeah, I mean, look, this is Sky. I mean, they've lost a lot of their boxing portfolio, and so they're making this out to be the biggest fight in generations. I mean, it's not really. Whenever you hear the word grudge match, you know, it's kind of manufactured. I mean, listen, I don't think these two like each other particularly.
Where is it happening and when?
It's happening this evening. I think it's going to be about 9 o'clock at the Manchester Arena.
Oh.
So, look, I'm not saying it'll be a bad fight. I'm not saying that it won't be some fireworks, but we live in an era now where every fight is overhyped. Let's just see what happens. You know, hopefully it'll be good. But as I say, I think both fighters are past their best. I mean, there were homophobic slurs in the week. There were racial slurs. The promoters had to come out and to apologise on behalf of each fighter. I suppose, you know, if you're using those sort of tactics to generate interest in the fight, it suggests to me that both of them have cooked their goose.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. We finally heard about Lewis Hamilton losing his title last season.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's the first time he's spoken. It was the launch of his new car yesterday. Again, he found the whole process caused him to lose some faith in the system. I would say that he says he has no problem with his rival Max Verstappen, but he has problem. You know, the guy who invented these new rules that came out in the final stage of the race back in December. I mean, it's still not very long ago. It's only 2 months ago.
No.
He's been sacked. Michael Masi, the Australian guy. So there was a suggestion that Hamilton might not come back, might not take his place. It sounded to me as if he was spitting his dummy out, maybe throwing his toys out of the pram, whichever analogy you prefer. But he's back. He's going to fight. I mean, he's
It's Lewis, though.
It is, but I also think he's had it a little bit too easy in the last. He's won 7 of the last 8. Somebody's come along and ruffled his feathers. I think there's an element of that as well. But it might make, if we can get a repeat of the finish to last season in the coming season, then F1 could be revived completely. I mean, it got quite boring after a while, didn't it?
Near as exciting as the curling.
Oh, give over.
But we'll have an update later on, let's hope.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll be good news.
Absolutely.
And it's Sir Lewis Hamilton now.
Yeah, I know that, but he still has to prove himself. He still has to prove himself.
For our curling teams, that's what I say. If you're a curler, please, will you get in touch and tell us why you do it and what's the wonderfulness of the sport?
And if you're any good at housework, how clean's your kitchen? How clean's your kitchen floor?
No. GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Yeah, we're going to run through a lot of your views. Loads coming in this morning. We'll run through those at the next hour, but stay with us, because if you're heading out today, just be very careful. We'll bring you all the very latest on Storm Eunice. But let's have a look at the forecast for today.
Hello again, a very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, there's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, it's 7 o'clock on Saturday, the 19th of February. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Anne.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio and all over the world online. So if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to subscribe. Wherever you're going, you can take us with you, but obviously be careful if you're going out at the moment because it's still stormy.
Yeah, don't forget, if you miss anything today, no, there's no reason because you can just pop it on the radio, do whatever, but you can catch up with everything on the GB News app. And coming up for you this morning,
one of the worst storms to hit the UK in decades rages on. 4 people have died. Over 1 million have been left without power, and the cost of the damage is estimated to be over £300 million. Storm and flood warnings are also in effect, so we'll get the latest from across the country for you.
President Biden has said he's convinced Vladimir Putin has already decided to invade Ukraine as satellite imagery shows new Russian troop movements with helicopters and tanks moving close to the border.
And meanwhile, Boris Johnson has returned his questionnaire about alleged Downing Street lockdown parties to the police. So, what's next for him?
As always, we want to hear your thoughts on whatever we're talking about today, and even the stuff we're not talking about. Maybe you can bring it to our attention. GBViews at gbnews.uk or tweet us at GBNews. I
found the perfect great birthday present for you, if only I could afford it.
Oh, good.
It's 30 grand,
lovely.
unfortunately, which is a bit much for my pocket, but it's Captain Kirk's original Star Trek outfit. The original yellow T-shirt thing he wore in the first ever episode, apparently. He wore it in 1966. The top is made of velour with a black cotton ring collar, long braided sleeves and a gold lame command patch. You'd love that, wouldn't you?
I mean, it would be. I mean, can you imagine owning that?
Yeah.
30 grand.
It's being auctioned in Dallas, Texas today. They're hoping to get at least 30 grand for it. I would have thought it would probably get more.
I think 100.
Trekkie fans, I mean, will pay anything for it.
I think 100 grand.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how much.
Legendary. Though I do notice that the trousers have a 31-inch waist.
Yeah, they're made of Dacron polyester, so they'd be a bit sweaty, wouldn't they?
Yeah, as long as they'd have to stretch if I'm going to get into a 31-inch waist.
Because it was in 1966, and we all thought we were wearing things like that in the future, didn't we, back in 1966?
Yeah, proper sort of spacey jumpsuits.
Yeah, everything was like that.
Well, I'm presuming. I mean, I wasn't around in...
Do you know how old William Shatner is now?
Oh, he's the late 80s or something.
Yeah, 90, apparently.
90?
Yeah. I don't think he'd get into it nowadays, would he?
No, he's...
But anyway, there you are.
Larger gentleman
the thought
now.
is there.
Thank you very much.
I would definitely buy that for you if I could afford it. If there are any millionaires watching right now, he'd love it.
Oh, yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, that'd be marvellous.
I just wonder if there's anyone watching actually. Have you paid a ridiculous amount of money for anything like, I don't know, like a Beatles autograph or a bit of memorabilia that really means something to you?
Yeah, but memorabilia is a really strange thing. Some people love it. Some, it's what's important to one person is not necessarily important to another.
Have you got lots of stuff?
Not sort of memorabilia, not like authentic stuff. But I mean, I've got a few TARDISes at home.
Thought so.
And a sonic screwdriver. And,
a sonic screwdriver.
All that sort of thing. Yeah. So I'm a bit of I'm a sci-fi geek.
One of my
sci-fi
sisters is a total Doctor Who fan, and she would be like you. She's got TARDISes and all sorts of weird things all over the place.
Love it.
It is lovely if it means something to you. So go on, tell us what you've got in your home that means something to you.
If you've got a picture of your little collection as well, I'll see if I can dig out a picture of some of my TARDISes.
Oh, yes, let's have a look.
In the meantime...
GBNews at gbnews.uk.
Are you having a bath as you watch this morning?
I
love this from Brian.
Very divisive.
Morning, Brian. Hello, Stephen. I have to say, I love having a bath, and I always make sure I have one every month, whether I need it or not. Love it.
Showers in between, I hope, too. Liz says, I have a bath at least 3 times a week for my bones. She says, a shower is a quick fix, but I always feel cold on one side. It's no way the same pleasure as a bath. You see, that's what I think. A shower is a functional thing, isn't it? Whereas a bath is just luxury and you can take your time. And I take the laptop in with me and I watch a favourite movie and stuff like that.
Very nice,
don't you?
Very nice. Well, no, I don't do
I
any
see,
of that.
that's the ultimate luxury, is it? Have you ever stayed in a hotel where you have a proper fitted-in TV
No.
in the wall? Oh, wonderful. Got to get me one of those one day.
Oh, I'll have to try. We're going to talk about the storm damage and everything in a moment. And one of the big pictures of the day is, I mean, it's on just about all the papers.
Yeah.
It's the O2.
The O2 arena.
And Fergus McClelland has been in touch. Morning, Fergus, who said they expected the cover to last 20 years at the most, and it's been, it'd be about 23 now since it went up.
Well, that's it. The O2 was never meant to be there forever, was it?
No.
That's what they always said.
So all the buildings inside are weatherproof, and I was told that by an architect who worked on it at the time.
So the roof isn't meant to be complete weatherproof?
It's about 3 millimetres thick, that roof, but very rigid.
It must have looked awful when it actually blew off.
I can't imagine.
I mean, I wonder, did it come over in one great big thing or in lots of bits and pieces?
Hope they get it sorted, though, because it's such a great venue to go to.
Yes, it is.
It's iconic now.
Yes, it is now. Absolutely.
Anyway, I mean, it was one of those rare red warnings yesterday. Today it's a yellow weather warning, and in some places still amber, actually, for parts of the UK today. And it is hindering up that clean-up operation after Storm Eunice.
Yeah, and we know now, of course, it was also fatal. 4 people died as winds reached 120 miles an hour. Over 1 million homes left without power.
Plenty of flying debris, which caused major disruption to rail and road networks and significant damage to homes and buildings, including, as we were saying, ripping part of the roof off the O2.
So, snow in places too. I wonder how it is for you, wherever you are in the country. Our reporters are in West Yorkshire and Wales for us this morning. So let's cross to Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley, who's in Dewsbury. Hi there, Anna.
Good morning. Yes, there's still more than 500 people waking up this morning in Yorkshire without power in their homes as a result of this storm. And as you mentioned, you can still see the fallout from it. There's a yellow weather warning for ice in place across West, South and North Yorkshire at the moment. That's in place till 9 in the morning. And we can see around here gritters going out to make sure that the surfaces of the road aren't slippy, people aren't falling and getting injured or skidding in their cars. And the fallout from the storm yesterday, we saw several major motorways closed. There was shocking footage of lorries being blown over, and major bridges also had to shut, the Humber Bridge being one of them. It opened in 1981, and this is only the 4th time since it's opened that it has been shut to all traffic, not just high-sided vehicles, as well as pedestrians crossing. And there's been many trees blown down as well. There's been a lot of work to move those trees, and in a nearby primary school in Batley, there was images showing a tree falling in that school. Luckily, it's half term at the moment. There were no children around to be injured. And attractions as well, with it being half term, families have been turned away from major attractions around here, such as the Yorkshire Wildlife Park. That was closed yesterday to visitors to protect people there and to protect the animals. There was gusts of 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, so that was done as a precaution. And looking ahead to the weekend as well, there is still going to be a yellow weather warning in place for wind and for rain as well. So the Met Office is saying in the Yorkshire area, look out for flooding potentially to homes and businesses as the rain continues throughout the weekend. That's another thing for people to look out for at the moment.
Yeah, well, as we've been saying, of course, it's not over yet. I hope it calms down for you for the rest of the day. Our reporter Bradley Harris is in Wales. What's it like in Wales at the moment, Bradley?
Yeah, I've come to the town of Porthcawl in the county borough of Bridgend. I've come to the seafront in Porthcawl, and take a look at these waves as the sun starts to rise here in South Wales. This is what the waves look like when the gusts of wind are around 25 to 30 miles an hour. Just think what it would have been like yesterday when winds were reaching up to 90 miles an hour. Waves would have been crashing into this wall next to me, over the street, water and foam heading across the road to the properties that are on the other side. And it certainly has been a dramatic picture here in Porthcawl over the last 24 hours. Many schools have been closed for the first time ever. All trains in Wales were cancelled. The M48 Severn Bridge is actually still closed yesterday. Inspectors are currently trying to take a look at it this morning to see when they can reopen it. But the M4 Prince of Wales Bridge is open again. If you take a look, clearly signs from yesterday where residents were thinking about the damage that the storm was going to cause. These are sandbags along the street going right up to the front gates of properties here in Porthcawl. People were getting very prepared for Storm Eunice and the impact that was going to have. These sandbags clearly haven't gone away yet. Residents clearly are still fearing for the worst. They think that the worst is still not over yet. But as we know, storms are going to reach and winds are going to reach 40 miles an hour today. Certainly not as bad as yesterday. Mark Drakeford, the First Minister for Wales, said yesterday to check in on relatives last night. The Met Office have given a yellow warning for wind today in Wales. Last night, the amber warning for all of Wales ended at 9 p.m. last night, and before that, as we know, there was a red warning from the Met Office, which is a threat to life. That is now ended. That ended 12 o'clock yesterday. So certainly the picture is a lot calmer than yesterday as the sun starts to rise. People will be inspecting the bridge to see if they can open the Severn Bridge later today as the rescue effort continues. On John Street, which is a bit more inland into Porthcawl, that road is still closed off. Tiles have been falling off houses there, so there's police tape across the road to keep that road blocked off. So avoid that area if you're thinking about heading there today. But certainly in other parts in Newport, we've seen roofs being blown off entirely. Further up, we've seen trees fallen over, certainly in Bridgend. Huge trees that have been hundreds of years old have fallen over onto roads. They are being cleared up as we speak. So certainly there's a rescue effort. But at the moment, residents here in Porthcawl, clearly with the sandbags, they think the worst is not over yet.
Could well be right as well.
Yeah, they're very wise, aren't they? I tell you what, that street, you know, having a lovely seafront property in the summer must be gorgeous.
Yeah.
But you take a battering when there's a storm like this.
This
really
is the
do.
problem.
Yeah.
It's the problem. OK, Bradley, Anna, thanks very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
Let's talk to meteorologist John Hammond. Look, John, what are we likely to see over this weekend?
Hello, you two. I think it is safe to say that the very worst is over. We're not going to see gusts as high as we saw yesterday, but we're in for a rough ride over the next few days, that is for sure. What we really want, of course, is prolonged calm weather, but that's not really what we're going to get. It's a relatively calm start across many areas. It's cold, there's some ice around. We are going to see some rain pushing in from the west through today, but the winds, probably more importantly, are going to pick up yet again across parts of South Wales, as we've just seen, and across other southern counties. The gusts through today, probably 40, 50, maybe 60 miles an hour across exposed coastal areas. That's almost business as usual, if you like, compared to what we had yesterday when we had sort of inland gusts of up to 80 miles an hour. So today's gusts are not going to be welcome. They're going to hinder the clear-up operation, but I wouldn't expect too many trees to come down as a result of today's winds, for example. And those winds will affect mostly southern counties of England for a time through today before they clear through. And then really it's all eyes to the more northern and western areas later on this weekend. We're seeing another deep area of low pressure, just what we don't want, and that's going to sweep some potentially stronger winds, much stronger winds across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, Northern England and North Wales late tomorrow and into Monday. And here we're looking at gusts of 60, 70 and, yeah, possibly 80 mile an hour winds, particularly around coastal areas, which of course are more resilient to those sorts of levels of winds. It's when we get 80 mile an hour winds inland, that's when the trouble starts, as we saw yesterday, because there are far more trees to come down, of course, compared with coastal areas. In terms of coastal flooding, I think the worst probably is over. We had that surge coming up the Bristol Channel, of course, yesterday, combined with a high tide. Most of the flooding concerns, I think, over the next few days will be as a result of rivers getting swollen as a result of further outbreaks of rain. So the Severn Valley, for example, that could be prone to some flooding. That's one to keep an eye on. That's one the Environment Agency, of course, will be monitoring very, very closely. I think the message I'm giving is that it's an unsettled outlook. There'll be some wind and some rain around, but hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing compared to what we saw yesterday.
John, it's very wise, actually, what you said there, the fact that it's not over yet and that there still will be gusts of wind, because a lot of people will be tempted to go out and start repair work. And maybe today isn't the day
myself
for that.
included.
Yeah? Oh, have you had much damage?
Yeah. My fence panel is not looking well at all. But I mean, that's small beer compared to others, and we've all got our story to tell about this storm, haven't we? I mean, just putting a historical context on it, Anne. There's been a lot of talk about it being the worst storm ever, and of course we had that phenomenal gust on the south coast, on the Needles in the Isle of Wight, 122 miles an hour. It's worth saying that weather station wasn't in existence back in 1987, and I feel sure that if it had been in existence, the gusts would have been even higher than we recorded yesterday. So this is probably the worst storm, depending on where you were, the worst storm for some 10 or 20 years, but it doesn't look as if it was as fierce as the daddy of them all in October 87. But of course, that's a long time ago, and many of us, the younger generation, won't remember that. So for some, it was the worst storm in living memory.
Not for me, I'm sad to say, but I do remember the 87
Or me. Or me.
John, thanks very much indeed. Yes, it's still going to be pretty bad over the weekend, from what John was saying there.
It's interesting we talk about the damage and things, because things like tiles and trees down all are very, very problematic. But as John said, fence panels.
Yeah.
My fence panels took a battering yesterday, and they cost a fortune to repair. really, so whichever way you're looking at it, it's still a lot of money out your pocket.
Yeah, and the tree that fell down in the road in front of me, it came through a fence panel to do so. So they've got a lot of repair work to do in that particular garden.
Oh, dear, dear, dear. Don't forget to send your pictures through of any damage that you've had. It'd be just good to see what sort of situation the storm brought where you are. Maybe sharing that can ease some of the pain a little bit. Sometimes it just helps to share. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Let's have a look at the other headlines for you. And Downing Street says the Prime Minister has handed in his Met Police questionnaire regarding allegations of parties in Downing Street during lockdown. Operation Hillman is looking into whether COVID restrictions were broken at Number 10 and across Whitehall over the last 2 years.
Meanwhile, he's going to tell leaders there's still a chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed during a visit to Germany today. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference, the Prime Minister will say allies need to speak with one voice to make the Russian president understand the high price of invading Ukraine.
The NHS is to stop taking cash from the gambling industry for the treatment of people suffering from addiction. NHS England said the decision had been heavily influenced by patients who were uncomfortable about using services paid for by the industry, a view that has also been echoed by medics.
And listen to this, 2 in 5 shoppers received a substitute product in their latest online grocery order, and Aldi was most likely to use substitutions, followed by Sainsbury's and then Asda. But some of the stranger replacements include duck paste instead of duct tape and sausage rolls in place of toilet rolls.
Imagine running out of toilet roll and all you've got is a packet of sausage rolls.
No. If you've had an odd substitution, love to hear what it was. Please, see if you can better that.
Yeah.
GBViews at gbnews.uk.
Yeah, well, that's a classic, that one. There's much more still to come for you this morning, including the possibility, as we're still talking about, of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. But first, let's have a look at the weather for you.
Hello again, a very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40-50 mile-per-hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England, as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, there's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
7:23. This is, sorry, Dan, I was talking all over you there.
No, I think Welcome Back
Rude.
and 7:23 went together quite well.
I suppose it did, yeah. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. I'm the gobby one.
You said it.
We're on the UK, across the UK, on your TV and on your radio and online for you.
Yeah, now we've been talking about the Ukraine for so long now, and every day it seems that a different politician has a slightly different message. And last week we heard from President Joe Biden saying that there would be an invasion. Didn't he say Wednesday? He actually said on the day, which was quite frightening because you were waiting all day Wednesday for confirmation that something had happened, and it didn't. Well, he's been talking again, and now he said he's convinced that Vladimir Putin has already decided to invade Ukraine, and he has reason to believe it'll happen in the coming days.
Well, it's thought now that the number of troops positioned on the eastern border between Russia and Ukraine has exceeded 150,000. Well, let's talk to security expert Will Geddes. Will, it's good to see you this morning. I mean, we're expecting the Prime Minister to have something to say at the Munich Security Conference this weekend. I mean, what are you expecting to hear from him?
Well, I think fundamentally, Stephen, it's going to be about rallying, obviously, the Allies and Europe and the United States to trying to de-escalate the rhetoric to a certain extent that Joe Biden has been publicizing, as Anne was saying recently, and about this whole issue of Russia inevitably invading. Now, there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes, as we know. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that's being spread by Russia. There were a series of attacks over the end of last week in some of those breakaway areas of the Ukraine, which is a pretty standard preamble to trying to justify an invasion. But I think Boris Johnson, hopefully, will take a very robust position in saying, yes, we won't tolerate an invasion by Russia, and we will stand by the sovereignty of the Ukraine. But at the same time, let's be very cautious about what we're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, we're told that Boris Johnson is going to say the NATO countries must speak with one voice. Is that a dig at President Biden?
Well, to a certain extent, yes, it is, Anne. I mean, fundamentally, Joe Biden is almost operating on his own volition, and, he is sending his own narrative out, which is skewing the optics somewhat. We need to look at very calm talk right now. And as we know in any kind of negotiation, every party has to walk away without egg on their face. But you've got this continual struggle in Ukraine, excuse me, trying to get my words out this morning, in terms of Donetsk and Luhansk, which are breakaway elements of the Ukraine that want to align themselves to Russia. Now, this creates all sorts of political confusion in Ukraine and, again, draws away and dilutes the potential for the Ukraine to have its own independent sovereignty. And it's about defining borders of the Ukraine, and that is the biggest dispute right now.
One of the things which tends to be sort of skirted around at the moment is because there's so much, focus on the numbers involved, and we're talking in excess of 150,000 troops stationed on the border. But I mean, we were talking 130,000 months ago. I mean, there's been a lot of build-up for a long time here, hasn't there?
Yeah, there's two elements to that. There's obviously the build-up of troops, which has been mapped by satellite imagery, but there's also the narrative by Putin, which is about the withdrawal of troops. However, today and over this weekend, Putin is going to go down and oversee himself some of the missile testing, which is going to be very close to the Ukraine border, which is very antagonistic in many regards, but he's trying to send a message back to the Russian people to say, he is one with those elements of the Ukraine that want to align themselves to Russia, and he's showing that they are robust and they won't stand down. Now, what this won't potentially detract from is the issue of NATO and particularly the Allied States, Europe and the United States, imposing some very draconian sanctions on Russia, which could have very drastic impact, certainly on the Russian states and Russian commerce as a whole. And this is the key issue here, because Putin is trying to combat that narrative of those sanctions being imposed by saying we are still very, very strong.
Russian people believe, do we know, when Putin says it's NATO that's the threat, do they believe that?
Well, I think they do to a certain extent. NATO is a formidable force, but it's only formidable if it is unified. And this is the key issues, obviously, that are going to be drawn up in Munich today and over the weekend in Germany. It's going to be, are we actually all on the same page here? And I think we're going to find out by the end of the weekend whether everybody is. But there are many parties that are reluctant. Germany, we know for one, is reluctant to really get that involved or to increase its deployment of troops, obviously, to the Ukraine to obviously present that robust defense. But that's not going to contest some of these disinformation attacks, like the ones we saw in Donetsk against the Donetsk Republic regional security head with the car bomb, the fire, obviously, at the pipelines, obviously, in Luhansk, and also the shell that landed very close to a kindergarten in Luhansk. So, if Russia continues running these types of operations, plus they attack two of Ukraine's largest banks and also their Ministry of Defense with cyber attacks, we're going to see perhaps more of this more clandestine and covert types of attacks for weeks to come.
OK, we'll get this. It's always good to talk to you and to get your expertise. Thank you.
Explained, I think, as well. Thank you very much indeed. Stay with us because we've got plenty more to come, including a thoroughly good look at the newspapers.
Eventually.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 7:31. Welcome back. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Anne. We're live across the UK on both your TV and your radio.
So you can listen in as we run you through the front pages, so you don't actually have to bother looking at them today. The Daily Express is showing the damage to the O2. As it says, Britain has been battered by a killer storm. The paper says clean-up bill could be about £500 million.
The Times says it was a day of destruction as several people died and flights and trains all over the place were delayed and axed.
The head of the MI5, Ken McCallum, has said Britain is in a struggle for our way of life. That's according to the Daily Mail, as China, it claims, and Russia compete to target MPs for spying.
Government advisers are warning that lifting COVID-19 restrictions risk an 80% rise in cases. Nearly 48,000 cases were reported yesterday, 11,000 fewer, though, compared to last week.
Well, let's go through those papers in a bit more detail for you with anthropologist and TV presenter Mariana Hotter and editor of Spike magazine, Tom Slater. Good to see you both this morning. Tom, can we kick off with the Telegraph and looking at NATO unity, which is what the Prime Minister is going to be calling for in Munich today?
Yes, so this is Boris Johnson's response to the kind of heightening of tensions over Ukraine and Russia, calling, as you say, Stephen, for unity amongst NATO members to speak with one voice, as he puts it, to show solidarity and to make clear that Russia, in his words, will pay a high price if it dares to invade Ukraine. Obviously, overnight, we've seen just the tensions really escalate. We've seen the kind of pro-Moscow separatist groups in eastern Ukraine suggesting, well, first of all, kind of moving out civilians, arguing that there's a kind of imminent attack from Ukrainian forces. And on the Ukrainian side, of course, you've got them accusing Russia of shelling certain areas, or at least Russian-backed separatists shelling certain areas to try and provoke some sort of provocation. So it's a really tense situation. We can only hope that cooler heads prevail.
Have the NATO countries been talking with different voices then?
Well, this is one of the interesting things about this particular crisis, is that you have seen different responses. So again, you have America and Britain obviously being seen to be taking quite a firm line against Moscow, but a lot of countries, NATO countries, particularly in Europe, it's a bit more conflicted. France and Germany, they wanting to kind of remain a little bit more open. They have a slightly different relationship with Russia in relation to Russian gas in many instances, and are just not as more willing, shall we say, to kind of push the diplomatic line and urging for talks rather than doing the sort of.
And Putin has been inviting all sorts of leaders over to sit at his long table.
To sit at the opposite end of that very long table to discuss, and we've seen everyone
Which is divisive, I get, isn't he? He's trying to chink a sort of dividing line there.
Potentially, yes. And I think, what's interesting is that those dividing lines were kind of already there, if you like, going into this crisis. You had some NATO members, particularly those in Europe, just taking a very different line from the kind of Atlantic countries.
Well, meanwhile, in the FT, Marianne, I mean, President Putin blaming Kiev for escalating all of this. I mean, I guess no surprise in a sense.
Yes, that's it. And Tom was describing these false flag operations where basically you shell your own troops and say, Ukrainians did it, they made the first aggressive move, therefore we can legitimately retaliate. Or you say, we're defending ourselves. So there's about 170,000 troops on Ukraine's borders now, and women and children are being evacuated to a Russian city out of this so-called Donetsk People's Republic, so this area of Donbass, which is now ruled by pro-Russian separatists. So basically has been annexed as a part of Russia. And so the question is, are they in imminent threat from Ukrainian forces? No, probably not. I mean, a lot of what Russia has been saying has been happening, hasn't been the same as what the satellite images are showing. They said, we're going to pull back some of our troops from the borders, we're not escalating this. And yet the satellite imagery shows that actually helicopters, personnel, equipment is being massed in Belarus, in Macedonia, in Donetsk. And it's a really critical moment. And the risk is that because this has been going on the front pages, in the news, as well as obviously in diplomats and foreign offices around Europe and in the US, that the rest of us start to get a bit tired of this and we stop paying attention and we don't really... It's not... Exciting isn't the right word. It's not that kind of new story where we go, oh my God, there might be World War III at any minute. Because it's still an enormous threat to Ukraine and therefore an enormous threat to security in Europe and therefore an enormous threat to security in the world. This is a really big deal. And the risk is that if we don't continue to keep eyes on the situation, and I mean that our political leaders as well as us as, you know, a kind of a broader public, Russia...
It becomes
take
normal,
advantage of that.
Yeah.
It just becomes normal, yeah. And the thing we have to remember is that there has been a land war in Europe since 2014. They invaded in 2008. We didn't do very much. They invaded more of Ukraine in 2014. We didn't do very much. This is just the next step of a protracted and prolonged campaign to undermine Ukraine and therefore undermine European democracy.
He plays the long game.
So yes, it's going to be a long game by the sound of it, isn't it?
That's right.
And then it only takes him to make one move, and you know, it's almost as though nothing has happened. And yet, for anyone living in that area, it must be terrifying.
And it's really difficult. But I think the other thing is that the difficulty is, and this is what we saw in the recent weeks, especially with a lot of Ukrainian politicians, suggesting that often the kind of posturing and the interventions of the West can be not necessarily very helpful, is because of the fact that even, you know, absent an imminent invasion, a lot of this kind of constant sort of proxy battling between the West and Russia over Ukraine is really bad for Ukraine. It starves it of any investment. It's losing a lot of money every day, basically, because of this particular standoff. So there's more at play here as well, and I think the kind of jousting on both sides with Ukraine in the middle is not doing the people of Ukraine
that's a very fair point. Tom, let's change tack somewhat, shouldn't we? Because I'm all for a bit of gripping TV. I like gripping television.
What is this big jet TV?
Well, this is a sort of breakout TV or online streaming star of Storm Eunice. So this is a gentleman called Jerry Dyer, who for some time has had a YouTube channel where he will live stream on the internet the planes landing at Heathrow, providing a bit of commentary as well. So obviously there's an added element of drama when the storm
commentates on the decency of the landing.
Precisely. So this became a huge kind of hit in the middle of yesterday. 200,000 people watching at one particular point. He's kind of, you know, you're seeing planes really kind of steadying themselves as they go down. It's quite colourful commentary, shouting "Go on, son," and all the rest of it. It became a unlikely kind of viral hit in the midst of.
It's funny, isn't it? Because whenever you go to the airport and you're having to wait around and you've got a chance to actually look at aeroplanes taking off and landing, it is fascinating.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. And knowing that it's not autopilot doing it yesterday, it was pilots, and some of them had to...
Some of them were,
you know, kind of go, oh, hang on, that's not going to happen. They have to take off again, go back round and have another go. The poor passengers on that plane must have been terrified.
Have you not been? I've been on one which had a sort of aborted landing. And it was
you think you're all going to die, don't you?
Yeah. And the pilot comes on and says, "Don't worry, we'll just take that again."
Yeah.
I think there's nothing more boring than watching big jet TV and watching planes land.
Now it's there. I'm definitely going to watch.
Yippee, love that.
I love it.
Honestly, you shot something to do.
Well, it must be interesting when such an incredibly kind of niche area of interest suddenly becomes incredibly like if train spotting suddenly became a spectator sport on mass scale. But I guess
trains. I don't get train spotting, but
they'll be streaming them next. Commentating on the skill.
Look, I'm hooked on the curling. Never mind that.
The skill of the driver as they pull into the station. 10 out of 10.
I love that.
It is funny to think that maybe more people were watching aeroplanes landing than watching the Winter Olympics.
Wondered where you were going with that for a minute. Now, let's talk about breast milk.
Why not? Yeah.
In the Guardian, we do.
This is an extraordinary story. I didn't even realise this was a thing.
Right.
So obviously there are breast milk banks for babies who are in need of breast milk. That makes a lot of sense. It is free if you have a baby who needs breast milk and you're unable to provide it, the parent is unable to provide it themselves. But apparently there's also a black market, illicit sales of breast milk on sites like eBay. Being posted, you can get 150 mils for 15 quid or thereabouts.
Does it not go off?
Well, there's a good question. The answer is yes, it does. It's full of bacteria. So apparently the sellers say, you know, it'll come frozen with a cold bag in the post. The thing is, you don't know who is selling this. You don't know the circumstances. You don't know whether they've got viruses. You don't know how well it's been stored. Don't forget, this is a human bodily fluid.
So bodybuilders take this because it's incredibly nutritious, isn't it?
Well, that's what they believe, but no. Basically, the risks do not outweigh any perceived benefits. There's also there's misinformation out there saying that actually, if you're suffering from very serious conditions, things like cancer or other conditions where your immune system is affected, then maybe this will give you a boost. This will be easier to digest. It's not true. Please don't buy illicit breast milk from people. You don't even know it is human breast milk. You have no idea what's in that bag. Oh, it's terrible.
Bodybuilders have big enough breasts as it is. They do. Fellas, they do.
That's how it works, breast milk, apparently. If you drink it, you get really big boobs,
Gives you big pecs.
Yeah. No, it's not true.
No, it's not.
Just for the record, that is not true.
But really, I mean, honestly, there's a black market in just about anything you can think of, isn't there?
It's a very strange world we live in.
Where there's money to be made, somebody will try and make it.
I wouldn't want that on my cornflakes.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But interestingly, what we do get from supermarkets can go wrong.
Yes, so you've already trailed this a bit on the show, but there's been this survey by Which magazine talking about the number of people who have had unusual replacement items in their shopping delivery. So apparently 2 out of 5 people have experienced this, and there's some pretty comical examples. Sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls. Fish food, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, which is chocolate ice cream, essentially, instead of kind of breaded fish fillets.
Oh, no, I'd rather have the substitution.
No, exactly. Well, some of these are actually quite good. There was one gentleman who received 3 bottles of £60 whiskey rather than 3 bottles of his £25 option. So it can work in your favour in certain situations.
Oh, what, for the same price?
Apparently so.
Oh, there you go.
But apparently a lot of this comes down to just your poor, quite stretched delivery worker who's often having to approve these kind of automatic substitutions on the hoof. So it's not necessarily, their fault when you see that happen. But yes, a lot of very strange substitutions apparently ended up in people's shopping bars.
There you go. Now, I don't know how to bring this up, Marianne, in the mail.
Yeah, go on. I'm ready.
You mustn't send nudes.
No. Well, you can. I mean, if you're both consenting and the person you're sending it to, that's not what this story is, though, Steve.
It's just what it says. I think Marianne says don't send nudes. You should think not.
It's more complicated than that.
It is more. Well, it's not. It's shut up, you. Let me tell you what the story is. It's in the mail. Apparently, if you're on a dating profile and you're looking for love, you're looking for a relationship, don't put sexy pictures on. I mean, still, nonetheless, keep your clothes on either way. But even if they're sexualised poses, apparently, they're a little bit come-hithery, people will perceive you, people looking at the images will perceive you as being less competent, less likeable, and definitely not in it for the relationship.
People don't go onto dating sites online for relationships.
Hey, don't they?
No.
Some do. It depends.
Men definitely don't. No.
Is that right?
Not all men.
Look, this is
what dating
This is a reality. No, they're not about dating.
How do you go about dating then if all dating sites are not actually about just hooking up?
I don't know.
Oh.
But I know people who've got long-term relationships from dating websites. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're smashing another romantic myth now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, look, there might be some. There's some which are really geared towards relationships, aren't there?
Yeah. But then the pressure's enormous, isn't it? Because you kind of
and all the rest of it.
meeting.
That's not about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's transactional, isn't it?
Yeah.
Transactional. There you go. If you're looking for a transaction, then sure, knock the socks off.
It's a bit duh, isn't it? If you want a long-term relationship and you want a serious relationship, don't put a sexy photograph of yourself. Do you have to be told that?
But I think it's a little bit depressing that if someone perceives you to be attractive, then they also perceive you to be not likeable and not competent.
But it's not about being attractive, is it?
It's sexy.
It's about being
It's sexy photographs.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, OK, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
there
look,
you go.
Serious.
If you really
hold up your financial
if you really want love, I don't know that online is the best place.
Have you found? I want to know. Come on, if you have found love, proper serious love, through a dating website, go on, get in touch and tell us your nice story.
Yeah, prove me wrong.
Dispel the myth.
I'd be happy to be proved wrong. I would. Marianne Hotter, Tom Slater, we shall catch up with you later. Hit those websites. A married lady with 2 children.
Happily married.
But with nice, tasteful photographs. Shall we bring you up to date with what's happening in the news? A big clean-up is set to begin following the damage and disruption caused after Storm Eunice swept the UK and Ireland yesterday. The record-breaking winds killed at least 4 people and brought travel disruption, flight cancellations and power cuts right across the country.
The Scottish Government is being called to go further and faster with measures to help those struggling with rising living costs. Finance Secretary Kate Forbes has already pledged a £290 million support package, but the Scottish Lib Dems insist more action is needed.
The Director General of MI5 is looking for an overhaul of the UK's espionage laws. Ken McCullum says the change is needed to tackle what he's calling a struggle for the country's values. And he added that the UK's Official Secrets Act was actually out of date and that the country is operating on the back foot.
And as we were just talking about, 2 in 5 shoppers get a substitute product in their online grocery, according to a new poll. You're more likely to get it from Aldi, followed by Sainsbury's and then Asda. Some of the stranger replacements, including duck paste instead of duct tape, and sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls.
And it's a big weekend for British curling, with the men and women's teams in the final of the Winter Olympic Games. The men's gold medal match against Sweden is underway in Beijing, with Team GB down 3-1, I think, at the moment, but we'll find the very latest score for you. The royal family has tweeted their support, saying Great Britain's journey to the final has been fantastic to watch and a great achievement.
We'll talk through that with Aidan McGee in just a moment. Morning, Aidan.
How you doing, guys?
But first, let's get the entertainment stories of the day with... It says here, the wonderful Stephanie Tetchy. Did you write that yourself?
Yes, I did. I paid a lot of money for that, guys.
What are we kicking off with?
Guys, Gordon Ramsay, he had a lucky escape from Storm Eunice yesterday. On his road in south-west London, a big, massive tree. When I say this tree was massive, it was gigantic. Gigantic.
Hugantic.
Hugantic. I think that could be a new word.
Could be a new word.
Yeah, I need to copyright that. So that is the tree that fell down. Luckily, he had a lucky escape, but unfortunately for his neighbours, their brick walls came down, and the whole day yesterday they had tree surgeons on the road trying to cut the branches so they could open the road back up. So Gordon Ramsay was quite lucky yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Blimmin' heck.
It's another one where you look at the tree like that. If it had fallen on a car or on a person, that would have been fatal.
Yeah, I think a lot of people yesterday had a lot of lucky escapes. I was speaking to so many people that were like, this nearly happened, that nearly happened. So thankfully...
I had a branch falling about 20 feet from my car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a trunk, but it would have, had it fallen on the car, it would have been quite damaging, yeah.
Wow.
Blimmin' heck.
Nicole misses.
Talking of damaging... the Brangelina, whatever they're called. I mean, it's just getting, honestly, it's getting so nasty now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, they were a Hollywood love story, which everybody loved, but since their divorce, it's just gone really bitter. And now Brad is suing Angelina because she has sold her stake in this lovely chateau that they bought in the south of France when they started dating in 2008. They actually got married there in 2014, and they made a promise to each other, we would never sell this without consulting one another. And Angelina's gone ahead and sold her share of it, which is absolutely got Brad's back up. He said, I'm the only person who's put my sweat and money into making this chateau quite successful, and you've gone and sold it.
Oh, that is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's going on
It's horrible when a relationship like that splits up and then it gets really nasty.
It is, and again, they've got 6 kids together, so it's always the kids that's going to suffer. And I think, I think that chateau was a symbol of their love, and I think, obviously, I know Angelina was the one to file for divorce, so I think for Brad, that might have been the last remaining thing.
Oh, dear. It was meant to be Simply Red at the O2 last night, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and that got cancelled because the O2, they also
Mick Hucknall holding back the tears.
Yeah, he's holding back the tears big time. Like that.
Something's got him started.
It's not as if they can immediately reschedule there. It's going to take a lot of rebuilding.
It is going to take a long time. I know they're working quite hard at the moment to find the next available date for Simply Red, but at the moment it's quite packed up, and other people have had their shows cancelled as well.
We're showing pictures now. For those listening on the radio, we're showing pictures of the O2 Arena, and it looks as though it's been shredded.
Yeah. Storm Eunice really came with a vengeance yesterday.
Oh, it's so sad to see. At least Mick's all right. I really like Mick Hucknall. I'm a huge fan of...
What's your favourite song?
I think Holding Back the Years.
Oh, you want to sing for us?
1986.
Was it?
Was indeed.
Oh, I was only just
I interviewed
born.
him once.
Did you?
I did, yeah. He was talking about football and he was talking about how he's, he's a big Man United fan, and they were playing Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final 2 days later, and he was just terrified of what Arsenal might do to his beloved Manchester United. So he ran a headline on the front page of the Pull-Out in the Mirror, Simply Dread.
Oh,
very good, very good.
It's a very good icebreaker, talking sport with anyone famous. If you meet anyone big deal, or politicians, serious politicians, if you bring up football and if you know their team,
I couldn't get him away from the.
Arsenal. You immediately break the ice with him.
Yeah, without doubt. I couldn't. Honestly, he was talking and talking and talking.
Yeah.
I think if I'd been asking about his private life, I'd been a showbiz reporter like Stephanie, then it might be a different story. But he was chat football.
Yeah, they tend to have their backup when you ask about their personal
life. They don't
life.
like showbiz reporters, but anything to do with sport.
We've got a bad rep.
If you know their sport, you absolutely break the ice. It's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Let's talk curling.
Sorry I can't be more up to date. The last I saw a few minutes ago was that Sweden were heading for a 5-1 lead.
Oh.
So it's not been So it's not been a particularly good. It's been an awful start, quite frankly, for Team GB. Having said that, in the women's semi-final yesterday, Team GB were 4-0 down very early on. They clawed it back.
It's a long game, isn't it?
Yes, it's a long game. They clawed it back. So let's not lose hope. There's still plenty to cling to, but Sweden have been very quick out of the blocks.
No matter how we do, we'll get a silver medal in the men's, won't we?
Yes, that ensured. So winning the semi-final ensured that they would at least get a medal.
That would be good.
So,
Aidan, I'm a bit, what is curling?
That's a good question. I was really hoping you weren't going to ask that. No. We call it, as we said last hour, didn't we? We described it as housework on ice. But it's basically where you have to curl. It's like crown green bowls on ice. That's what I would say. So you curl it. You're trying to curl a ball.
You have this big thing called
it's a stone. That's right. Yeah.
And you swoosh it along the ice.
Yeah.
And you have sweepers in front of it to ensure that it has a smooth run to exactly where you've sent it.
That sounds
You've got to knock the other stones out and get
you can have a
guard. Your last stone has to be in the middle.
Think of it as...
It's called the house.
Think of it as darts in very, very slow motion.
Oh.
Stephanie, if you look closely at the ice,
I do.
It's brilliant.
It sounds relaxing. It sounds like a relaxing sport.
I don't think they're too relaxed. I don't think Team GB are too relaxed right now, actually, being if they are if indeed they are 5-1 down. But if you look at the ice on any ice rink, you'd be amazed how uneven and how fragmented the ice is. And so that's why the sweeping, as Anne mentioned, comes in so important, because that's to ensure a smooth path into the
What
house.
about in terms of medals, CJ, Ujar?
Yeah, I know. Listen, we spoke last week about the trouble that the Olympic movement was having. We've been discussing the curling this morning. It's been good news generally, but this one dates back to last summer, the Tokyo 2020 Games. He's tested positive for a substance known as, and I wrote it down because I knew I'd be asked about it, it's called Osterine. So CJ Ujar took this substance unknowingly within a supplement. Supposedly, you have to feel for the other three 4x1 contenders. Richard Kilty said only CJ knows if he took it deliberately or if he took it unwittingly.
Oh, that's not a vote of confidence, is it?
That's he's probably not fit. Richard Kilty said to himself, he said, "Look, you've denied me the chance of putting that silver medal around my child's neck, so that he can show it off at school." Now he's confident, given his age, that he can come back in 2022. But it seems a long way off now. Don't forget they won this last summer. They've been celebrating. They've been conducting themselves as if they're medal holders, and suddenly they've had this hanging over their neck. And it gets literally hanging over their neck, and then they've had it removed. And it's as I say, it's another death knell in the Olympic movement when the fans can't, or people watching, casual observers, people who don't even pay much attention to the Olympics in the 4 years in between the games, if they can't even sit down every 4 years and guarantee the sanctity of the competition, Anne and Stephen, that everything is going to be clean, And that even you can even take substances without knowing,
Yes.
so it blurs the water even further.
It does.
That it muddies the water even further. Then that's why they can't attract big broadcasting deals anymore.
Well, look,
that's the reality of the situation.
On that depressing note, we're out of time. Stephanie, Aidan, thank you both very much indeed. We've got lots more coming up for you in just a moment.
Hello again, a very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England, as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, there's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask. So why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
morning. It's 8 o'clock on Saturday, the 19th of February. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Dan.
And we're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio and all over the world online. And if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to subscribe. So wherever you're going, you can't get away from us at all. Take us with you. But obviously be careful if you're going out in the storm.
Yeah, please do. And if you miss anything in today's show, you can catch up whenever you like on the GB News app. Coming up for you this morning.
One of the worst storms to hit the UK in decades rages on. 4 people have died, over 1 million have been left without power, and the cost of the damage is estimated to be over £300 million. Storm and flood warnings are still in effect, so we'll get the very latest for you from right across the country.
Joe Biden has said he's convinced Vladimir Putin has already decided to invade Ukraine, as satellite imagery shows new Russian troop movements with helicopters and tanks moving close to the border.
Councillors in York are taking steps to remove the honorary freedom of the city from Prince Andrew as he marks his 62nd birthday today.
Anything you want to talk about, and there's lots doing the rounds today, then please do get in touch. gbviews@gbnews.uk or send us a tweet at gbnews. Oh, there's loads of stuff you're getting in touch about. I like the fact, as well as you're talking about some of the serious stuff, a lot of the fun stuff as well. We need a bit of cheering up today. Julian has been talking about his memorabilia and all this sort of lovely memorabilia you can get. And he said, I purchased a signed Stone Roses album. Oh, classics. Unfortunately, my Staffordshire Bull Terrier, Max, got to the letterbox before me and destroyed it.
Oh, dear. I wonder how much you paid for it. What a shame.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine? That's so
And
sad,
talking of
actually.
memorabilia, because I was saying that earlier on that they are auctioning off in Dallas, Texas this morning. They're auctioning off Captain Kirk's original first T-shirt, you know, his Star Trek T-shirt that he wore in the first episode. And they're hoping to get about 30 grand for it. What sort of money have you ever paid for memorabilia? But you have quite a collection at home, don't you?
Well, yeah, nothing expensive. I mean, I like anything sci-fi, but Doctor Who. I grew up watching Doctor Who, and I've got a collection of TARDISes, or TARDI. There you go. That's my little collection this morning.
I was asking what they're made of. Some of them are pottery, aren't they?
Some of them are pot. There's sort of one...
Are they like biscuit crocks?
No. There's a few more sort of money boxes and things. Some of them are metal and some of them are plastic. And that one sort of at the back on the right is I got when I was about 8 years old.
Oh, bless.
So I've still got that.
And the 2 small ones on the very right are salt and pepper shakers.
Yeah, they're salt and pepper shakers. And you can't really see it, but right in the middle there's a very, very tiny one that you made for me.
That's right, when my son made it with his 3D printer.
Yeah, years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, years ago. A little plastic 3D printed TARDIS.
That's my little collection
That's
there.
brilliant, yeah.
What else have we got? Oh, I tell you what, some of these food substitutions.
Yeah, what do you get sometimes? If you're doing online shopping and they put a substitution in instead of what you really wanted. Pat says, I had sage and onion stuffing substituted instead of tea bags in the early days of the lockdown. Wouldn't have been very much use for you, would it?
How can you get that wrong? I don't know. Lauren says my daughter wanted onions for burgers and got green beans instead.
Well, healthy, I suppose. Janet got lucky. She said, the last time I ordered food shopping online was years ago, but on my list was low-calorie rice pudding. That wasn't available, so they substituted the full-fat version. It was really delicious.
Bet it was. On some of the more serious stuff this morning, Steve says it seems to me that President Biden is trying to manipulate a war as his own polling numbers of tanks. He's desperate to have some sort of incident to prove that he can make grown-up decisions. I mean, I don't know if you're right, but I don't understand why
he keeps saying...
It's imminent. It's imminent. They're going to attack, and then it doesn't
And then
happen.
it doesn't, which doesn't particularly make his intelligence look that good, does it? But also, why is he ramping it up all the time when, as Boris Johnson is apparently going to warn everybody today that NATO must speak with one voice? However, we were talking as well about dating websites.
Oh, yes.
And whether or not you maintain that you don't go on a dating website for a serious relationship.
I don't think men do. Or, I mean, there are some that are geared only for relationships. So, I mean, there are some out there, but I think most men, if they go online looking for a date,
Well, Anne says, I love you, Stephen, but you're wrong about
okay,
online dating. Both of my children, boys, met their wives online, one on Tinder and the other on Bumble.
Oh, right. No, so I wouldn't have put Tinder or Bumble up for that. But, you know, no, I'm happy to be proved wrong on that. True love will win out.
Oh, and I tell you what, you know, we were talking about the Tinder swindler.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and this guy who went online on Tinder and got lots and lots of dates. He was a total con artist. There's a documentary about him on Netflix. Absolutely brilliant, worth watching. It's got record viewing figures, apparently. Where's the Daily Mail? Amanda Platel, that's right. Amanda Platel in the Daily Mail. She's a very well-known columnist. And, you know, a pretty tough-nosed journalist. She writes about how it happened to her on Bumble. Yeah. She fell for a man who pretended to be absolutely, you know, Prince Charming, the perfect man. Not only Prince Charming, but rich as well. And she said, you know, she doesn't fall for these things. She couldn't believe she fell for such a con. But he was a total con man. Tried to get money out of her. Luckily, she managed to, I'll find it later, but she managed to actually sort of suss it out in time before actually giving him money. But these guys are incredibly clever at trying to fleece money from you.
If they've asked for money, something's not right.
No, but by then they've got your trust. It's a long con. Anyway, it's just interesting. But apparently, according to Anne, you're wrong. Both her sons met their wives.
Well, I'm glad your boys and your daughter-in-laws are very happy.
Oh, this is a good one as well. We were talking about Prince Harry and the fact that he has wanted to pay for police protection when he comes to this country. And the police forces and the Home Office have said you can't just hire police. Stuart says, I run sporting events and the police charge us to turn up and police the event. So what's the difference for Prince Harry?
Oh, that's a very good point. I think you may have helped his case a little bit
Yeah.
there. Very interesting point. Keep all your thoughts coming through this morning. gbviews@gbnews.uk, or you can send us a tweet at gbnews.
Now, there's a yellow weather warning remaining in place for parts of the UK today, hindering the clean-up operation, of course, following Storm Eunice.
Yeah, we now know that 4 people died as winds reached about 120 miles an hour and more than 1 million homes have been left without power.
Flying debris caused major disruption to rail and road networks and significant damage to homes and buildings, including ripping the roof off part of the O2 Arena in London.
Well, let's talk to our East of England reporter, Amelia Harper, who's in Buckinghamshire this morning. I mean, what was happening in Buckinghamshire yesterday, Amelia?
Well, it was incredibly busy because, as we know, we started off with that red warning. That was upgraded by the Met Office at about 4 a.m, moving from the southwest across to the east, hitting the east at around 10 o'clock. And actually, here in Buckinghamshire, the ambulance service, South Central Ambulance Service, actually declared a critical incident in response to the storm. They said they were inundated with 999 calls, as well as pressures compounded by the existing storm. If we look elsewhere in the east of England, in Suffolk, the County Council early in the day declared a major incident there. Their teams, multidisciplinary teams, were assessing the situation every couple of hours. As well, if we look at elsewhere in the south, in London, the London Fire Brigade declared a major incident there as well. The exposed coastal areas, I was in Southend-on-Sea yesterday. They recorded wind speeds of 90 miles an hour. A little further inland in places like Hertfordshire, they were about 80 miles an hour. Hertfordshire County Council took 175 calls alone for trees. Their fire service took another 100 calls. Elsewhere in Essex, their fire service took 300 calls. But look, today, the dust has settled, as it were. That clean-up operation now commences. But there are questions from the Met Office because there are new, less severe yellow weather warnings for ice around Scotland and the north of England, and then also in the south, the very south coast of England as well. There is still significant disruption to travel. I've had a look at Network Rail, their website this morning. Out of every single operator in the UK, there are only 2 that are operating with good service.
It looks rather sunny, at least where you are at the moment. So, as you say, maybe things are cheering up, though. They are saying it's still a yellow weather warning, and it's probably not the day to go out, or at least not to go up high and make any repairs. Thanks very much, Amelia. Bradley Harris is also live with us to take us through the latest in Wales. Hello there, Bradley. Actually, it looks as though it's getting more windy.
You're
you're absolutely right. The wind is seriously picking up. We've now reached 40 miles an hour here, 25 miles west of the capital of Wales in Porthcawl. That's where I'm standing now, right on the edge of the seafront. You can see the waves have really started to get a lot bigger now compared to when I was speaking to you both just a few hours ago. Much bigger, much more aggressive, hitting those sea defences and tipping over the edge onto the road here. That's with winds of 40 miles an hour. Double that, and that's what it would have been like yesterday when Storm Eunice came charging in, battering this town with up to 90-mile-an-hour gusts of wind. That was when it had the severe rare red weather warning from the Met Office, which means a risk to life. That ended at 12 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It then went to an amber weather warning that ended at 9 o'clock last night for the whole of Wales. It's now a yellow warning for wind, and you can certainly feel it now in Porthcawl. People are allowed to go out now. It was only essential travel yesterday, 40 mile an hour on the M4. That's because 2 lorries had turned over. Most of the schools in Wales have been closed for the first time ever. All trains were cancelled across Wales. The 2 bridges, that's the M48 Severn Bridge and the M4 Prince of Wales Bridge, were both shut. The first time that's happened since the second bridge was opened in 1996. Now, though, the Prince of Wales Bridge is back open again. Inspectors are taking a look at the M48 Severn Bridge as we speak, working out whether it's safe to actually open that back up. I can't see whether it should be opened yet, considering how windy it is here. Of course, we are on the seafront. Just take a look at those waves now, crashing in, hitting those sea defences. Incredible scenes at the moment here in Porthcawl. Many people's roofs, not here, but up in Newport, we've seen pictures already of people's roofs being torn off completely. Over in Bridgend, huge, massive trees, 100 years old, tipped over onto roads, blocking paths. So a rescue effort is underway. The worst of the storm is far from over. People have got sandbags still in front of their houses, just in case some of the waves, like this one, has just hit us now. That could happen again later today, and they could get worse than this. But of course, the worst part of it was yesterday. We're now seeing 40 mile an hour winds, but as you can see, it's still pretty rough here, and it will be a rough few couple of days as we come out of this storm.
Bradley,
that looks very cold and wet. And while we laughed when you got soaked there, it just brings home how dangerous it could be as well, I guess. So we'll leave you to it. Don't take any risks.
No, please don't.
I mean, that's the trouble, isn't it? You can imagine youngsters watching that and thinking, oh, it'd be lovely to go down there and get soaked. But it could still be very nasty out there. Please don't take it lightly.
Be very, very careful. Well, of course, we know the chaos from Eunice is going to continue for some time, because it's not the risk of flooding that we've been talking about this morning, but also there's the power cuts. And how difficult is it to get power restored to those people who've lost their energy as a result of all of this? Let's talk to Malcolm Grimston, a Senior Research Fellow at Imperial College Centre for Energy Policy and Technology. Morning to you. I mean, it's bad enough that the power goes, but obviously it's not the easiest time to get it all reconnected again, is it?
No, that's right. I mean, the electricity system is geared up for this kind of thing. It's not so many weeks ago that we saw Storm Dudley, if I remember the name correctly, more in the north of England and in Scotland. And the power was restored over a matter of days. But certainly there's a balance. Yeah, we keep the wires in a good state, but if we want to keep them in a state they can withstand storms like this, it's going to cost an awful lot of money when most of the time the weather is much more clement. So it's a balance between keeping the wires in a pretty good state, and I think they are in a pretty good state, but recognising that we can't protect them against every possible weather condition.
Interesting, isn't it, when we look at the infrastructure at times like this, when, of course, it is maintaining and improving infrastructure, which adds to those bills, which so many people are currently and in the months likely even more to struggle to be able to pay.
That's absolutely right. The wires are not subject to competition in the way that generation supply is. They're a natural monopoly, and so they are a regulated business. And if the wire companies want to spend money, they have to get permission from the generator, from Ofgem, to do so, which is a pretty sensible system. But as you say, we can always spend more on anything and make it more robust. But at a time when we're panicking, rightly so, because of the effects of very high energy prices across the world, actually, at the moment, then we recognise that spending that money is going to exacerbate that problem while making the wires a bit more robust.
I mean, we've just seen quite graphically how the high winds have brought down trees, ripped the top off the O2 Arena, and the ferocity of the waves on the seafront there in Porthcawl and the Bristol Channel we saw yesterday. I just wondered about these big wind turbines that are producing power for us. How do they fare in this sort of wind?
They're improving. Actually, one of the upsides of what we've seen over the last 24, 48 hours is an enormous surge in wind power, which has taken a lot of strain off the gas reserves. And we've seen the wholesale power price right the way across Europe coming down a bit, still desperately high by the standards of recent years, but certainly not at the levels that we were talking about perhaps a month ago. And newer wind turbines, again, are designed with this in mind. We have newer materials, better materials, which are more robust. But it was interesting, in the middle of the day, at about 11 o'clock yesterday, we were only getting about 35% of our electricity in the UK from wind, whereas later in the day, it was up over 50%. Now, I'm checking up, but my suspicion is that some of the perhaps older wind turbines did have to be shut down at the absolute peak of the storm, because of dangers of their basically blowing apart. And certainly there are, if you go on the web, there's lots of graphic videos of wind turbines being blown apart in extremely high weather. But my overall impression is that that's an issue which new materials are going a long way towards improving. And certainly if you look at the bigger picture, wind was a real winner, and therefore, low carbon and taking the strain off the gas price, a number of other benefits of this very high wind that we saw. So most of the wind turbines seemed able to cope with it.
It also brings the question up about tidal power, because, that was something we talked about, decades ago now as being a potential, and yet it never seems to have got anywhere. Is that an area of renewable energy that, even when we see conditions like we're seeing at the moment, just isn't feasible?
Well, and the big issue really with tidal power or using the in and out of the tide is that you get vast amounts of energy twice a day and then not terribly much in between. And given that storage of electricity is still the big technical issue that we need to grasp, as it has been for well over 2 centuries now, then there are issues about how you integrate an enormous tidal generator into the system. What we are seeing now is more deep current tidal, which doesn't depend on the particular phase of the moon where we are, as it were. But it's still a relatively dilute source of energy, so you do need an awful lot of concrete in particular to make these facilities. And of course, as you say, you do need to build them in such a way that they can withstand storm surges of this nature. If you're deep under the ocean or below the surface of the ocean, then you are, to a considerable degree, protected from what's going on at the surface. It's the surface where the real issue is. As you go down, the deep waters run still, as they say, that you have a much less turbulent going on below the surface than you do at the surface as you go further down. So it's certainly feasible to imagine that you can develop tidal power that can withstand that. But as I say, there are other drawbacks to tidal, which mean that although tidal was actually invented in 1904, so we've been looking at it for nearly 120 years now, and there's nowhere in the world where it has really taken off because of these sorts of issues.
What a fascinating field you work in. Thanks very much for giving us an insight. Didn't even know there was such a thing as the deep underwater tidal system.
No, it's funny, isn't it?
Malcolm Grimston there, who's a Senior Research Fellow at Imperial College Centre for Energy Policy and Technology. Fascinating stuff.
Good to talk to you. Let's bring you up to date with the other headlines for you. And Downing Street says the Prime Minister has now handed in his Met Police questionnaire regarding allegations of parties at Downing Street during lockdown. Operation Hillman is looking into whether COVID restrictions were broken at Number 10 and in Whitehall over the last 2 years.
Meanwhile, he's going to tell leaders there's still a chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed during a visit to Germany today. He's going to be speaking at the Munich Security Conference, and the Prime Minister is going to say allies need to speak with one voice to make the Russian president understand the high price of invading Ukraine.
Joe Biden says he's convinced that the Russian president has decided to launch an invasion of Ukraine. The president says he's reason to believe it will occur in the coming days, including an assault on Kiev. He cites the US's significant intelligence capability for the assessment.
The NHS is to stop taking cash from the gambling industry for the treatment of people suffering from addiction. NHS England said the decision had been heavily influenced by patients who were uncomfortable about using services paid for by that industry, a view that has also been echoed by medics.
If you do a lot of online shopping, have you had a substitute recently? Plenty of us have, apparently. Say we, I haven't used online shopping. Aldi was the most likely to use substitutions, followed by Sainsbury's and Asda. Some of the stranger replacements include duck paste instead of duct tape and sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls.
Do stay with us because we've got plenty more to come, including the latest on Prince Andrew. First of all, though, the weather.
Hello again, a very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England, as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, there's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Thank you for being with us today. This is Breakfast with Stephen and Anne across the UK on your TV and your radio at 8:26.
And we've been asking you to send pictures in, if you can, of how the weather has affected you. And look at this. We'll describe it for you if you're listening on the radio. Tree down. Has it hit that car? I don't know.
Just missed.
I think it might have just missed the car, but it's a big tree and it's come right down in an ordinary residential street. Andre sent that to us. I think it's Andre, or Andrej, is it? He says it was a close call. That's Sutton in Surrey. Thanks for the picture.
Wow, I mean, if you own that car, you're going to be breathing a sigh of relief today. Blimey heck. And also, we say every week, we love to see you, where you are, who you are, what you're doing. Peter's been in touch. Morning, Peter. It says, we went to walk Reggie at 6:30, which I presume is the dog. Now having a cup of chai tea.
Lovely.
Very nice. The grandchildren arrived at 8 o'clock. Love your programme from Peter and Jeshu.
Oh, thanks very much. If you're still watching and with the children as well, a very good morning to you. It's lovely that you got in touch with that.
Chai tea, that's a bit fancy, isn't it?
Very posh, isn't it?
Very nice.
Very good for you.
Is it?
Yes, it gives you lift.
Does it?
Gives you whatever.
Oh, lovely.
It does. I'm trying to think of the word.
I'll have to try a bit of that then.
Oomph.
Lovely.
It gives you oomph. It does.
Apparently. Oh, right. Someone who hasn't got much oomph at the moment is the Duke of York.
It's his 62nd birthday today, but it's not going to be a particularly good day for him, I don't think.
There's
because,
not much to celebrate, is there?
Well, if he hears the news that councillors in York are taking steps to remove his freedom of the city of York.
Oh, well, understandable. It comes at the end of a dramatic week following an out-of-court settlement in that sexual assault civil case and confirmation that he will never return to royal duties.
Well, for more on this, let's talk to royal biographer Andrew Lowney, who joins us now. Hi there, Andrew.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello, hi. Do you think they will be able to remove the... I mean, I know that a lot of people want actually his dukedom taken off him, but I suppose the City Council does have the power to revoke his freedom of the city?
Yes, of course. I mean, I think there are two things here. I mean, is this hysterical overreaction and a witch hunt? Or, I mean, if this man is supposed to be had all his titles taken, privileges taken away, then they all have to go. And that includes being Duke of York and his associations with the city. But I think in some ways this is a side issue. The bigger questions are about other members of the royal family. I think the fact that Prince Charles has been questioned by police is very serious. But also, I think there are bigger questions about the Duke of York and his financial dealings, quite separate from these allegations and his settlement. So I think it is. You know, we're moving into very dangerous ground here. You know,
forgive me, Andrew, forgive me for jumping in, but I mean the fact that you started off by saying, "Well, could this be a witch hunt?" Do you think it is?
Well, I think he for whatever reason made a settlement with Virginia Giuffre, and clearly he's never going to have anything tested in court, which of course he was very keen to have tested only a few weeks ago. But the fact is, people are innocent until they're found guilty. I mean, he has certainly been found to not been telling the truth on a whole series of occasions, and I think the hope was that the problem would go away if he did the settlement. But of course, it's a crazy settlement. I mean, there's still a good chance that other people will pop up, that there will be further investigations by the law enforcement agency, and that she may well go ahead and do an interview and a book. So he's not off the hook at all. I think there's This is sort of gesture politics. I mean, I suspect he did very little for the city of York. And so this is all just jumping on a bandwagon. I think where the press should be focusing is on his commercial activities and how he abuses public position as a trade envoy for private gain. And I think there are wider questions too about where this money is coming from for the settlement and his own finances. We've got the question of his house, which was bought for far more than it was worth. We've got the Swiss ski chalet. We don't quite know what's actually happened there. And he has property abroad that he was given, particularly in the Middle East. Again, I think he needs to come clean on his finances and who is actually funding this settlement.
I mean, from his perspective, the nightmare is clearly not going to stop, is it? But at the same time, we have the Platinum Jubilee of the Queen. We know that we've always been told that he is her favourite son. This is going to be really appalling for her, isn't it? And also for the monarchy, given that she is getting older and she's looking to her succession. Do you think this is rocking the royal family almost as much as, for instance, the abdication?
Yes, I think it's at the same level. I think we're at very dangerous territory here, because even the Queen has been smeared, but has become associated with some very dodgy dealings with Middle Eastern sheikhs. So, there is still sensitivity about Charles taking over and Camilla. We've had 70 years with the Queen, who's earned extreme respect, but I think that's not going to continue. I have to say, this is all part of a wider debasement of public life. I mean, we see it in politics with the way the politicians have operated. And I think we're also seeing less deference to the royal family. I mean, there's now a challenge to the Prince Philip's will. The press are much more prepared to be critical of the royal family. And I mean, we're seeing huge rise now in support for organizations like Republic, who are anti-monarchy. So I think, the next 2 or 3 years are going to be very dangerous for the royal family. They don't really have very good advice. They had a very good private secretary to the Queen, Christopher Geit, but he was moved out by Prince Charles. And there's no one really to stabilize the ship. Prince Philip is dead. The Queen really has more or less retired from public life. I mean, they're not saying that, but quite rightly at the age of 96. And there's a sort of vacuum there that people are stepping into. And, the one thing we haven't mentioned is Banquo, Prince Harry. What's he going to get up to this year? I don't think they're by any means out of the rough.
Gosh. I mean, when you list it like that, it really is another annus horribilis, isn't it? Thank you very much. We'll leave it there, Andrew. But that is quite stunning when you do look at it. I mean, and you look at the way politicians fall. It's sex or money, usually, and sometimes both. I mean, is this happening to the royal family as well?
Well, can't fall in the same way, though, can they? That's the thing.
Well, they're always there.
They're always there.
I suppose. But they could lose our respect. I don't know.
Let us know what you think. Good to get your thoughts on that one this morning. gbviews@gbnews.uk. But stay with us. We've got lots more to come, including the papers with Mariana Hotter and Tom Slater.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. You wouldn't believe what they're talking
You
about.
don't want to know. You don't want to know. This is Breakfast with Steve and Anne. Let's have a look at the newspapers for you at 8:36. Start with the Express showing the damage to the O2 as it says Britain has been battered by a killer storm. The paper says the clean-up bill could be about £500 million. Ouch.
The Times says it was a day of destruction as several people died and flights and trains were axed.
Head of MI5, Ken McCallum, has said that Britain is in a struggle for our way of life. That's in the Daily Mail, all about China and Russia trying to target MPs for spying.
And government advisers are warning that lifting COVID-19 restrictions risk an 80% rise in cases. Nearly 48,000 cases were reported yesterday, 11,000 fewer compared with last week.
Yeah, which I don't understand then.
Sorry?
Because we've had fewer COVID restrictions in the last week and the figures have gone down.
Yes, but the figures are always about 2 weeks later than any action we take. Isn't that true?
Yeah, no, I
Something
suppose
like
that's a fair point. Let's go through the papers then in more detail with anthropologist and that woman off of Time Team, Mary Ann, and the editor of Spike Magazine, Tom Slater. Good to see you both.
Hello, thank you for coming back in.
I haven't said that to you in a year or two.
No. It's like getting the bang back together, isn't it?
It is like
and bear
getting
in
the bang
mind,
back together.
I was on Time Team quite a number of years ago.
Yes, but they're still on repeats and things.
And it's still a great show.
It's a great show.
Yeah.
Do you get paid for the repeats?
No.
Everybody wants to know that, don't you?
That would be nice.
I've only ever worked in live television, so you don't get paid You don't get paid repeats at all.
No, not in factual TV.
No, that would be nice.
Sad.
Yeah.
So look at the Independent and COVID restrictions. What were we just talking about?
Exactly so. So 48,000 cases reported yesterday, although, as you point out, Anne, there's always a delay in reporting, particularly across a weekend. 2.4 million infections in England last week. So there are a lot of people still with COVID, but the majority of those cases are now the Omicron variant, which is less deadly than Delta or Alpha was. But this is the advice from SAGE, the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies. That's the group of scientists who are there to advise government about the potential projections of how this pandemic is going, what the risks to public health are, but therefore perhaps how we need to protect and mitigate against some of those risks. And they're saying basically, if you have a sudden change of restrictions, so what the government are proposing, which is stopping testing, stopping the access to free lateral flow tests, and lifting any rules about what you should do if you test positive. So if you find out you've got COVID, never mind, crack on. If you feel a bit ill, stay in bed. If you don't, just get on with your life.
Like you would with the flu.
Well, I mean, the thing is, back in the day, I don't know if you remember, those times in the winter when you're standing on public transport, a busy bus or a tube, and you're standing next to someone who's streaming snot and filth, sneezing all over the shop, coughing into their hands, and then touching the grab rails. Yeah. And you're standing there going, oh, that's disgusting. We do not want to go back to those times. And there was always the public health advice of, if you're ill, stay at home. But there's that expectation in the modern workplace that you haven't got time to be ill. You have to be at work, even if you feel a bit rubbish. But the thing is, the other thing that SAGE are advising is that we were lucky with Omicron. This idea that viruses always become less deadly as they evolve isn't true. It's a common misconception. And so it's very likely, or it's possible, certainly, it's not necessarily more likely, but it's entirely possible that the next COVID variant, and rest assured there will be many more COVID variants, now it exists in the world, may be more virulent, it might spread more easily, but it might also be more deadly. So if you have this massive lifting of all restrictions, of all that infrastructure that helps us stay safe and learn to live with the virus, learning to live with the virus is adapting, using the tools that we've developed over our experiences over the past 2 years. It isn't just kind of
we've got to let it go eventually.
Well, I don't know. I don't think we should have some kind of collective amnesia and pretend it didn't happen. That's not really how you learn from experience or from science.
But things have changed, haven't they? I mean, we've got a vaccinated population as well as a lot of people who've been infected by the virus and got immunity via that means. I mean, there's learning to live with the virus and there's learning to live with restrictions, and I think the latter is something that people just don't want. We're not in the same situation we were. If this was at the kind of height of the crisis, then it's a completely different issue to now. I mean, I agree on questions of like guidance. If the government making clear that if you're ill with COVID even now, you could still be a threat, particularly to elderly and vulnerable people, making that clearer I think is absolutely fine. But we've got to be in a position now where particularly legal restrictions on people's lives have got to peel away. You've got to just trust people's common sense, because otherwise we will never get out of this. And I think it's important that we do.
But we do, I think...
just briefly.
I was going to say, I think collectively, though, we have to accept and have a conversation about what happens when the next one comes. So it might be COVID, but it might be some other kind of respiratory disease. It might be one of those really grim diseases that jumps from pigs that gives you dysentery. Because they happen too. Well, there you go. Enjoy that.
Cheering us.
Happy breakfast, everyone. I know you're having your cornflakes.
You're well and truly cheered up now.
lovely,
I mean, I take your point utterly,
Yeah.
but you can almost think about this too much, can't you? It's one of those, you can almost talk it too much as well and get yourself down. So instead, let's talk about Storm Eunice, which has been wreaking havoc across the country.
Exactly. From one cheery story to another. Stormageddon is the spread in the Mirror here. Just, again, some incredible pictures from around the UK of the devastation, really. 122-mile-per-hour winds was recorded off of the Isle of Wight. 3 people, as you guys have been discussing this morning, have sadly died as a result of either trees falling on cars or debris hitting cars while people are driving, causing them to crash and all the rest of it. It's really, really quite tragic. And just almost no part of the UK untouched by this, obviously. And one of the things which, again, shows you the kind of aftermath of the storm as well. 150,000 people still without power. Again, threats of flooding going forward. So whilst the kind of initial storm is over, the impact of it is still definitely being felt up and down the country.
Yeah, and it's gonna take a while to clear up as well. A lot of damage that needs repairing. Marianne, can we have what's this in the Telegraph? What is hyper-optimism?
UCL did a study, University College London, with children and teenagers. And they got the kids to play a game where they had to go and collect online treasures from different planets. And if you ask primary school children, how well are you going to do? They're hyper-optimistic. They go, I'm going brilliant, I'm going to get 1 billion treasures. And then consistently, when they don't hit that target, you ask them again, how well are you going to do on this round? I'm going to do brilliantly. When you hit about the age of 8 to 9, you suddenly become a lot less optimistic. When you hit the age of 12 to 13, you become even less optimistic. So by the time you're an adolescent, you are still mildly optimistic. You still predict that you're going to do slightly better. You're going to get a few more treasures than you consistently do. But basically, you lose that, the world is my oyster, nothing's going to get in my way, amazing, I can do this regardless of what everyone says or regardless of the evidence.
But it's
and you become grounded.
It's glass half full, isn't it? Because I mean, so you sort of lose the optimism or gain realism.
Realism, yes. So that's the question.
It's learning to live in the real world, isn't it?
Overall, adults are still mildly optimistic as a whole, but it's interesting because there's a very clear correlation between poor mental health and losing that optimism bias. Right. So if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you're stressed about things like money, health, then you lose your optimism bias, and then it becomes quite a vicious cycle because you see the world as a threatening place where bad things happen, and that in itself means that you lose an aspect of resilience because then the next bad thing happens, and it happens to all of us, and the people with the optimism bias go, yeah, but that won't happen again, and the people who've lost that will go, you see, it did happen, and things are bad.
Yeah.
So a little bit of being delusional is actually protective.
Yeah. No, I get the point.
It's nice to hear optimism.
A little bit of optimism is nice. Look, thank you both very much indeed. Marianne Hotter, Tom Slater. We have to leave it there.
Yeah,
but it's been a joy.
It has
been
you
both.
very much so.
Just before, talking about optimism, you're all being very cheery in certain parts of the country. This is where most of you are watching this morning, or the big sort of clusters, we can tell with all this fabulous data we get. Hartlepool, morning to you there. In York, where you're talking about the Duke of York and his freedom of the city. Bristol, Blackpool, oh, good old Blackpool, Lincoln, Croydon, Southampton, Portsmouth, Liverpool, Leicester, Manchester and Norfolk. So if you're in any of those places, drop us a quick email, gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Yeah.
Say hello.
Well, wherever you are watching and wherever you are in the world, we would like to hear how you're watching us. Take a picture as well, if you would. It's nice to see you. Shall we bring you up to date with the headlines? A big clean-up is set to begin following the damage and disruption caused after Storm Eunice swept the UK and Ireland yesterday. The record-breaking winds killed at least 4 people and brought travel disruption, flight cancellations and power cuts across the country.
The Scottish Government is being called to go further and faster with measures to help those struggling with rising living costs. Finance Secretary Kate Forbes has already pledged nearly £300 million in support, but the Scottish Lib Dems want more action.
The Director General of MI5 is looking for an overhaul of the UK's espionage laws. Ken McCullum says the change is needed to tackle what he's calling a struggle for the country's values. He added that the UK's Official Secrets Act was also out of date and that the country is operating on the back foot.
2 in 5 shoppers got a substitute product in their latest online grocery order, according to a new poll. Aldi tops the list, Sainsbury's second, Asda third, and some of the substitutes are a bit weird, including getting sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls.
But it's a big weekend for British curling, with the men and women's teams in the final of the Winter Olympic Games. The men's gold medal match against Sweden is underway, and we'll catch up with the very latest on that any second right now. Even the royal family is getting excited about the curling. They tweeted their support, saying Great Britain's journey to the final has been fantastic to watch and a great achievement.
Time for the Showbiz then with Miss Stephanie Tecchi. Good morning.
Morning, guys.
Can we talk about Oompa Loompas?
Oompa Loompas. Well, Hugh Grant is getting ready to play his most smallest role to date, so he's going to be starring in the prequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The bosses didn't want to hire dwarfs because they were scared that they will offend small people. And also with that role, it's been quite controversial anyway from the book when it came out in 1973, because campaigners are saying that the role is racist, which, you know, keeping up with the woke side of things.
It's so difficult to keep up with this.
You know, I'm really getting annoyed with it as well, because I'm like, there is actually cases of racism out there, and it seems all the time now, any little thing, it's deemed as racist. So studio bosses weren't going to have the role in, but they've decided to keep it in. They haven't hired dwarfs, but Hugh Grant is going to be in it.
So they put dwarves out of work.
Yeah.
And instead they're hiring a fully grown man to play the part of an Oompa Loompa.
I know.
I don't get that.
It's a shame. And as we spoke a couple of weeks ago about Snow White and the Sweven Dwarves, they were also put out of work for that, just not to upset people. And it's just like, I don't know how Hugh Grant's going to do in this role. Obviously, he's a fantastic actor, but it just kind of deviates from what people actually expect and what they've read in the books. It's going to be coming out in 2023 next year, and he'll be starring opposite Timothy Chalamet. I don't know.
It's all CGI, isn't it? It's all CGI.
Well, why hire Hugh Grant?
Yeah.
Because they'll have to shrink him and then make about 1,000 copies of him.
Do you think that's what they'll do?
Because Oompa Loompas are identical. It's what they did for the last movie with Johnny Depp. It was one actor, fantastic Indian actor whose name escapes me, and then he had to film it like 1 million times.
Gosh, it will be interesting to see if he can pull it off. But
he's done some interesting parts so far, but that one beats it all, really.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah. And next up, guys, the Spice Girls. A couple of weeks ago, I was devastated when I heard that the reunion wasn't going to happen, but now they've been asked to perform at the Queen's Jubilee concert in June.
She's a huge fan.
I know. She wants it. We all want it.
They've got to give her what she wants, what she
Oh,
really wants.
The Queen wants it. And so they're now thinking about doing it. Obviously, Posh has said before she wasn't too eager to join. She has to for the Queen. She can't say no to the Queen. And the band regretted turning down the Diamond Jubilee a few years ago. So hopefully they will make this reunion happen, because it's going to be the biggest entertainment concert of the year.
I mean, it will be quite something.
It would be brilliant, even if they only walked on and sort of
just done a medley. Yeah, it worked at the London Olympics, so it will definitely work again this time round.
Well, I'll tell you what we really, really want is a bit of Aidan McGee.
I want the curling news.
Well, listen, I need an arithmetic lesson, because I came on the last hour and I said Team GB were heading for a 5-1 deficit.
Yeah.
I was completely wrong, thankfully.
So what's happening?
GB have just got it back to 3-3. So while we were on air last time, there was a bit of a turnaround, and they've taken it a little bit further. I've been told they've stolen an end, and it's
Look,
it's 3-3
Aidan, look what
now.
our lovely headline writers are talking about the Spice Girls 1 minute and the curling the next. We have curl power.
Curl power.
Guys. Curl power.
Excellent. My hair's very straight.
So at the moment, it's looking good.
It's looking good, yeah. 3-3, 3-3, going very well at the moment. Yeah,
That's the men's,
They were
obviously.
3-1, yeah. They were 3-1. So yeah.
And are the women competing today?
No, that's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh,
yeah, it's tomorrow. Yeah, against Japan. So yeah, really exciting. So yeah, we'll keep, as I say, we'll keep an eye on that one as it progresses today. But it could be a long one now, because Sweden looked as if they were in the ascendancy. They were almost looking unassailable. In fact, in my mind, they were unassailable. They were going to be 5-1 ahead in the last hour, but 3-3 as things stand out now.
How long does this match last?
How long's a piece of string?
12
hours. Yesterday it was 12. It finished 12-11 in the women's semi-final.
Yeah.
So we're now 3-3. That puts it in some kind of context. We could barely be only about a quarter of the way through.
Don't you think a lot of these Winter Olympic sports that we didn't really know very much about before are getting viewers now because of the way they're shooting it? And they're making it interesting.
Possibly.
Have you seen those twirly-whirly skiers?
Yeah, I
I'm
looked
sure
at
there's a
twirly-whirly
proper name for it. But they go whoosh up like that, and then they do twirls in the air, and they do them. You know how they shot the Matrix?
The visuals
many cameras. So they freeze frame them, and it's absolutely
the visuals are crucial in any sport. I mean, you look at football in the last 30 years, how it was shot before Sky got hold of it. I mean, you never used to see. I mean, you almost had a camera down the player's shorts. You know, I mean, every single angle's shown, and so yeah, maybe not.
No, that might be a step too.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But I mean, if you look at the way, we started seeing cameras from the side of the pitches, following the wingers down the flanks. We started seeing cameras in the goal nets as well, and it all adds to it's visual. When people are watching on television, it has to be visually captive.
Talk about not very visually captured. A lot of matches cancelled today.
Yeah, loads.
Well, I just noticed here postponed Exeter against Barrow in League Two. Oh, sorry, Barrow.
Yeah, but that's a long old journey, isn't it? Barrow to Exeter.
Where were they playing?
It's not just that it's windy and rainy, I suppose. It's
that
that you can get hit with any flying debris at the moment.
Yeah, you can. The other thing is that, I mean, some of these clubs, I mean, that's a low league game, so it would be unlikely, but some of the clubs do fly to games. I mean, Manchester City came back from Portugal in the week, and they were diverted they were going to land in Manchester, obviously. I mean, they weren't diverted far away, they were only diverted to Liverpool, but it was enough. It just shows a differential in the elements between, I mean, that's 34 miles from Liverpool to Manchester, and they were diverted into Liverpool Airport, Liverpool John Lennon Airport. They put out a tweet saying, welcome to the capital of football, to Manchester City. Yeah. That was good. I know, it's quite cheeky. But we saw Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth bit the dust last night, and it was fancied that one would go ahead. The problem, because it was kind of 7:45, and we thought that the eye of the storm would be kind of moved on by then. But it's difficult, because if you think about it, Bournemouth fans travelling all the way to Nottingham, that's probably around about best part of 4 hours by road, and you have to consider the transportation in these instances.
Oh yeah, no, I've got family in Bournemouth who have no electricity at the moment.
Really?
Oh,
wow.
So I think things were quite bad there.
Talking about Manchester though, Manchester United, what's going on between Ronaldo and Maguire?
Well, it's a captaincy issue. I mean, I think more of it was made of it that was necessary. I mean, the issue is that the way newspapers are now, I mean, the Express, the Star and the Mirror are all part of the same group.
Yeah.
And everyone was saying yesterday, this story about there being a ruck between Maguire and Ronaldo over the captaincy, and the manager Ralph Rangnick's involved as well. Well, they're saying, it appeared on the back of 3 papers. Well, they're all owned by the same group.
Yeah.
The same bloke wrote the same story, and it got on the back of all 3 papers. It was duplicated, syndicated. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You've seen how it works. Okay, it's even worse on a Sunday, because you've got the Sunday Mirror, the Sunday People, the Daily Star Sunday, and the Sunday Express. So one person can write a story, and it will appear on all back pages. So only one person wrote it it was kind of isolated. It doesn't mean it's not true, because you never know with these clubs anyway, because they always say nothing to see here anyway.
But it seems a bigger deal than it actually is.
Without doubt. And I think Ronaldo said it's not, Ralph Rangnick yesterday said, I know this isn't a problem. I mean, look, Maguire isn't playing very well. He played well for England in the summer. A lot of people felt that he was given the captaincy a little bit too soon. 2 years ago, when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gave it to him, he hadn't really found his feet as a Manchester United player.
I agree with
and then
that.
you invite Cristiano Ronaldo into the dressing room. He's a huge figure, particularly with the young players. And there could be something pulling. There've been discussions throughout the season about there being problems around team spirit. And I think it could be a little bit of mischief making on behalf of one of the players' representatives. We don't really know, but the coach seems to have a grip on it. And we'll find out with their results. They're going to Leeds tomorrow, a hell of a fixture. That's a 2:30 kick-off, I think it is, at Elland Road. So,
who do you think will make the better captain? I'm a big Man United fan.
Yeah.
So who do you think who should be leading the team at the moment?
Well, look, if you're looking at positions, irrespective of personalities, I like my captain to be right in the middle of the pitch, and that would be either a central defender like Harry Maguire or a central midfielder. I don't like my captain to be either a goalkeeper, because I think he's a bit too detached from the rest of the team, or a striker, because they can be a little bit too detached as well. They have to become in the middle. That could be an old school view.
Wow.
But that would be my opinion. And I've run teams before, so I've got a little bit of
so there you go. There you go. Lovely. Thank you two very much. We should catch up with you a little bit later on. Me and Anna back in just a couple of minutes, aren't we?
After this.
Hello again. A very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts, even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England, as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, there's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Morning to you. It is 9 o'clock on Saturday, the 19th of February. This is Breakfast on GB News with Stephen and Dan.
We're live across the whole of the UK on both your TV and your radio, all over the world online. If you're watching us on YouTube, remember to subscribe. Wherever you're going, you can't get away from us, so take us with you.
Yeah, if you're going out though today, do be careful. That weather's still pretty grim. And if you miss anything in today's show, fear not, because you can catch up via the GB News app. Coming up for you this morning.
One of the worst storms to hit the UK in decades rages on. 4 people have died, and the continued wind and rain is hindering the rebuilding efforts. Storm and flood warnings are still in effect, so we'll get the very latest for you from across the country.
Boris Johnson has returned his questionnaire about allegations of Downing Street lockdown breaches. We'll find out more this hour.
And Team GB's curling team are still in action as they push for their medal, the gold medal hopefully, at the Winter Olympics. We'll have the very latest for you.
Don't forget, we really want to hear from you this morning. Loads of views coming through. Keep them heading our way. We absolutely love to hear from you. GB Views at gbnews.uk. So plenty of you getting in touch this morning. All sorts of different stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about the royal family. Prince Andrew's 62nd birthday today, but he won't have been very happy if he was watching our interview because it looks as though there's more dismal news. I mean, these allegations are not going away. People are going to be looking into his finances, how he's going to pay his bill, the settlement he's received.
Talking £12 million or thereabouts, aren't they?
He hasn't got as much money as you'd think, but the Queen has. But if she steps in to help him pay off that debt, people won't like that.
No.
Catherine Naylor on the monarchy, she said, our country is better off for having the royal family. I love them and their history. I feel that everything our country holds dear is being targeted and eroded away. I know how you feel, Catherine. We don't like it when there's too much of an assault on the Queen.
No, not on Her Majesty, no. Sean Cooper, morning to you, Sean. I think you epitomise everything we're trying to achieve here on GB News, actually, because we were talking about Lewis Hamilton earlier on and the fact that he's given his first in-depth interview since he lost his title back in December. Sean Cooper says, I don't like Lewis Hamilton, thinks he's a bit woke, which is fair enough if you hold that opinion, but there is no doubt he was cheated out of his 8th world title at the end of that last race, and that's what I like. You don't have to like him, but you can still view what he does objectively, rather than just say, if I don't like him, then... So I'd like that. I have a lot of respect for you, Sean.
Well, Amanda said... Now, we were talking about online dating.
Yes.
And you of the opinion, very sceptical, that if you want a serious relationship, online dating is not how to do it. But we've had so many people already ringing in and saying, you're wrong.
I'm happy to be
Amanda
wrong.
Silcock says, I met my husband on a dating site nearly 5 years ago. We lived in different parts of the country and only saw each other at weekends to start with. But that's a very true cliche now. Love conquers all. We are now married, living the dream, and the happiest we have ever been. She said, it's soppy, I know, but it's true.
No, well, that's fine. And do you know what? That's brilliant. If it works for you and has worked for you, then I'm very, very happy for you. I am, honestly.
And David Holt is watching from Hinckley in Leicestershire, loving the show. Hi there, David. And Helena Krogan.
Oh, yes, Helena Krogan's in Liverpool. I love Liverpool so much. We absolutely love your show, says Helena It's really good to have you
Brilliant.
with us this morning. Wherever you're watching, let us know. gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Now, there's a yellow weather warning remaining in place for parts of England and Wales today, hindering, I suppose, what is a clean-up operation in the wake of Storm Eunice. But we already know that 4 people have died. Winds reached 120 miles an hour, and around 400,000 homes are still without power.
Flying debris caused major disruption to rail and road networks, significant damage to homes and buildings, including ripping the roof, or part of the roof at least, off the O2 in London.
Well, our reporters are all over the place in Yorkshire, Wales and Buckinghamshire for us right now. So let's cross, I think, first to Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley. She's in Batley. Hi there, Anna.
Good morning, Anne and Stephen. Yes, I'm in Batley this morning. There's been a yellow weather warning in place until 9 o'clock for ice here across West Yorkshire. And the heavy winds of up to 60 to 70 miles an hour have wreaked devastation in certain areas. Here in Batley, we're at Healy Junior School. As you can see, the tree has fallen and absolutely just ripped apart the nearby fencing. You can see the brickwork here of this wall has come apart. The road had to be closed off down here. You can see where the tree had to be cut apart to let motorists pass. And further along as well, down the wall, there's more wreckage there of the fencing. I don't know how much that's going to cost to repair, but luckily no one was harmed. It is half term at the moment, so there's no children playing in the playground where this tree has collapsed. But this just shows you some of the extent of the winds that this storm has caused. And like you mentioned, it's caused disruption to travel, it's shut roads, it's shut bridges, it's shut attractions as well. And we're braced for more wet weather here in Yorkshire. The Met Office are saying there's flood warnings are out potentially because we're going to get a lot more rain. Even though the storm and the winds are dying down, it's the rain that is coming in next.
Oh, God, it's depressing. It's certainly depressing. Look, thank you, Anna. Let's talk to our East of England reporter, Amelia Harper, who's in Buckinghamshire for us this morning. Well, I mean, I live in Buckinghamshire. It was pretty grim yesterday, Amelia.
Well, it was indeed, because the East of England was hit with that unusual and rare red alert from the Met Office. That happened at about 10 a.m. yesterday. Those winds sweeping in from the southwest through to the east. But here in Buckinghamshire and other parts of the sort of west of the east, if you like, the South Central Ambulance Service actually declared a critical incident yesterday in response to the number of calls they were getting into their 999 line, and also in response to the challenges of getting around from the storm. We had elsewhere in Suffolk, the County Council declared a major incident there. Further south in London, the London Fire Brigade declared a major incident in response to the storm as well. But the Met Office is warning not here in the east, luckily, because actually, as you can probably see around me, the wind has really died down, although it is pretty cold. They are warning in South Wales and along the south coast of England. There's a yellow warning in place still for wind. But actually, looking at the UK power network, there is still a huge chunk of the east without power. We've got over 34,000 homes without electricity in the east. And if we move further south into the southeast, they say that 58,000 people are still without power. Since the storm blew through yesterday, they've returned 84% of people's power to them. However, they also say that the weather caused a month's worth of faults in a day, so we can see just the extent and the damage that the storm caused. They said their equipment has been damaged in more than 1,800 locations.
Oh, that's going to take some sorting out. Amelia, thank you.
And our national reporter Bradley Harris is in Porthcawl in Wales. You dried off a bit, Bradley, because last time we saw you, you were, a great wave hit you, nearly obliterated you.
Yeah, I've just about dried off, although the rain is still coming down here in Porthcawl. I've come to my hometown, the county borough of Bridgend. I'm here in the town of Porthcawl, as you say, because 24 hours ago, it was a different story. There was a severe red weather warning from the Met Office, up to 90 miles per hour winds. You can see some of the after effects here. A fence just in the distance there is currently blown over. I'm in a cul-de-sac a bit further inland in Porthcawl. Many people here have been telling me that actually they have been impacted by the storm in many ways, not just with fences blowing over, panels on people's roofs, tiles in fact. And it turns out that one of those people is actually a former teacher of mine. As I say, I've grown up here, and she got in touch with me this morning to say, come and have a look. So we're in her drive. Alex, the cameraman, is just going to pan up and show you just some of the panels that have come off the side of her property here in Porthcawl. That's what some of the gusts of wind have done to her property here in Porthcawl. I'm going to knock on and just speak to Jill Taylor now, a former teacher of mine. It'll be good to get her thoughts on how the storm has impacted. Jill, you're live on GB News. Good to see you again. Former teacher. I know, good to see you.
How are you?
Very good. We've been taking a look at the side of your house.
I can't believe it.
What have the last 24 hours been like then?
The last 24 hours, well, to be honest, when we heard the forecast, I got really anxious. We've lost the dormers before in the past, but we've never had a red warning. And I said to my husband, I don't think they've got it right. Anyway, I woke up in the middle of the night. Oh, my God. I thought, I'm not going to let the dogs out. They'd be like Toto of the Wizard of Oz. They'd be gone. And as the day went on, so it progressed. I was supposed to have gone for an appointment. I cancelled it. Checked on my parents. They were OK. Checked everybody was sort of, you know, down safe and all secure. And then we're supposed to be flying away on Sunday morning, so I kept looking up at the sky.
You're flying tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, yeah. I'm just really hoping it's going to calm down, Brad. Anyway, so I went into the lounge later on in the morning, and my neighbour just across there, who's really, really, really nervous of COVID and doesn't like going out, was walking quite briskly down the street there, picking up panels of PVC. So I shouted to my husband, I said, oh, Dave, I said, it must be awful. They've lost all their panels over there. And he said, oh, God. I said, do you think you better go and help? He said, no, he'd be all right. Anyway, he came out, Brad, and it wasn't their house. They were panels from my house.
They were your panels?
Yeah. I don't know why I'm laughing, because like I said, we're going away tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we've got people coming to stay. So I'm hoping that this is the end of it now. And, well, hopefully.
Jill, I mean, we've been at the seafront this morning, and it's been insane. The waves crashing over onto us. Yesterday, it must have been even worse than that.
Well, it was. I mean, like I said, I didn't go down there, but I watched it, and I got a lot of friends on Facebook. They were, you know, covering the media on it. I just couldn't believe the people that were actually standing there taking the photographs, because one reporter, I saw a wave go right over her. There was a local restaurant opposite the seafront. They lost a table and bench. That was just lifted and went blowing out towards the sea, you know. And the harbour, we've been having all day, and there's a lot of work been going on there. And, well, if you'd seen the waves coming over, good job nobody got injured. I mean, we've been lucky here in Porthcawl, I think. I don't think we've had any tragedies, thank God. But, well, no, like I said, I've never seen a red warning, and I really don't want to see one again.
Well, Jill, I hope you can get on your holiday tomorrow. Good to chat to you and see you again. Like I say, Jill Taylor, a resident here in Porthcawl and my former teacher as well. Really good to chat to her and actually find out how this storm is having an impact on people here in Porthcawl.
Oh, Bradley, say to Jill, tell Jill, didn't you do well? Eh? She must be very proud of you.
I bet she is.
She's very proud of me. Very proud of me.
Oh, that is nice. You'll get an A star for that one, I think.
Absolutely fantastic.
Look, Bradley, Anna, Amelia, thank you all. We'll catch up with you throughout the day here on GBNews.
Go and have a cup of soup somewhere.
Oh, cup of soup, yeah, that's what you need to warm you through a little bit.
But I tell you what, let's find out if it's going to go on for very much longer and talk to Peter Eunice, who's a meteorologist at Reading University. Hello there, Peter.
Good morning.
Very good morning to you. Is this storm going to go on for much longer? I mean, for instance, will June be able to get away, or Jill, will she be able to get away on her flight tomorrow? Or is it going to last through until next week?
OK, well, you showed the weather forecast just before the break there at 9 from the Met Office, which showed that the storm itself has moved out into Europe now. It's not over the UK, but the winds are still very strong just around that sort of southwest coast, along the south coast of England as well. So it's still going to be windy, but I don't think there's going to be anything like the disruption that we saw yesterday. But the important point is that the forecasts were really very good. And the forecast for this week is saying that it's going to be unsettled, but nowhere near that kind of level of disruption. So I'd say to your viewers, keep your eyes on the forecast, get onto the Met Office website or their app, put in your location, get the forecast for where you're travelling to, and all the information will be there and will be very accurate.
Look, Peter, is this a climate change issue? Are these sort of severe weather episodes going to be something we see more of?
Well, obviously, it's something that scientists are concerned about, and we're watching very closely. But at the moment, the evidence is that storms like that haven't become more frequent or more damaging in the last 30, 40 years or so. And it doesn't look like they're going to become significantly more frequent or more damaging in terms of wind over the next 30 to 40 years. The big thing that does look like it's going to change, or it is already changing, is that we're getting heavier rainfall from these kind of systems due to climate change, due to a warmer atmosphere. So flooding risk is increasing from heavy rain, but also flooding risk from storm surge because of the sea level rise associated with global warming. That means that every time there's a storm like this coinciding with a high tide, it's much more likely that we'll see scenes like we're seeing at the moment on the screen of very big waves overtopping coastal defences, flooding along seafronts, damage to properties along seafronts will increase due to storm surge and flooding from that sense. So the winds aren't going to get stronger, but the wave damage and the heavy rain that comes with these kind of storms does look like it's going to increase.
OK. Look, Peter, it's really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
OK. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's hope that we don't have to talk about many more storms in the future, but there will be, one after another.
We're going to keep talking as we look through the headlines today at 9:60. We're going to keep talking about Downing Street for a while yet, I should think. It says the Prime Minister has handed in his Met Police questionnaire about allegations of parties in Downing Street during lockdown. Operation Hillman looking into whether COVID restrictions were broken at Number 10 and across Whitehall.
Boris Johnson's going to tell leaders, though, that there's still a chance to avoid unnecessary bloodshed during his visit to Germany today. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference, the Prime Minister will say allies need to speak with one voice to make the Russian president understand the high price of invading Ukraine.
Well, Joe Biden says he's convinced that the Russian president has decided to launch an invasion. The president says he has reason to believe it's going to occur in the coming days and will include an assault on Kiev.
And coming up later this hour, a war veteran tells us about his experience while serving in Afghanistan. Stay with us for his story.
Hello again. A very good morning to you. Certainly a much today. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south and increasingly mild through the night as that cloud and rain moves in and the winds pick up. The wind's coming from the southwest, so it's not going to be a cold morning on Sunday, but it will be a dull start. That wind picking up strength through the day. Spells of rain pushing through northern and western England, as well as Wales, reaching the southeast by the middle part of the day. Heavy at times. Scotland and Northern Ireland see showers move in towards the end of the afternoon, falling as snow over the hills with hail at lower levels. Some brighter spells in between, but the wind really picks up later Sunday. Risk of gales for Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. Risk of gusts in exposed spots of 70 to 80 miles an hour. So unfortunately, There's further wet and windy weather to come.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
It's 9:21. I've just made it back into the studio.
I know, I was a bit worried you weren't coming back.
I was out talking to Paul Minter, who's our guest coming up at past. But also then, who's out there but TV chef, the legendary Kevin Woodford.
Ooh.
Who I've been chatting to online for years.
Is he coming in to cook us breakfast?
And we've never actually met up before. So he's here. He's on the next show with Esther.
Oh, brilliant. Is he cooking them breakfast?
I don't think
I'm
so.
hanging around just in case there's some breakfast going.
Oh, what a lovely fella. That's really made my day.
Oh, good, good.
There you go.
Thank you for making it back in the studio.
Sorry, yes, I'm a little bit out of breath.
I was a bit worried.
Anyway, should we talk about the PM?
Yes. Number 10 has confirmed that Boris Johnson has handed in his legal questionnaire regarding lockdown parties to the Metropolitan Police.
Let's talk to Liberal Democrat MP for Edinburgh West, Christine Jardine. Morning to you, Christine. Look,
good morning.
I mean, it's an interesting thing that this deadline has passed and now we know this questionnaire has gone in, but it's a police investigation. We're not actually going to get any details on what he's submitted, are we?
Well, there have been concerns about this right from the start. And what we're concerned about today is the news that's come out that people who are being investigated by the Met are going to be able to see Sue Gray's notes about the evidence that they gave. Now, what worries us about this is that the public have yet to see Sue Gray's report, which we were promised by the Prime Minister we would see in full. So it doesn't help avoid the impression that there is some sort of cover-up or conspiracy going on to make sure that we don't find out the truth about Partygate, because the British public have a right to know exactly what was going on in Downing Street and what the Prime Minister, who, as you know, the leader and sets the tone, what he was allowing to go on at the heart of government at a time of crisis.
Is it right for us now, though, to be going on? I mean, this is what a lot of our viewers are saying. Is it right for you to keep going on about Partygate at a time when there are more serious issues? For instance, he's in Munich today, isn't he, talking to other members of NATO. We've got Ukraine to worry about. I mean, maybe we should just let sleeping dogs lie.
Well, the problem with that is that we have a government who when we were in a previous crisis, wasn't, from what we know about Partygate, behaving in a way that we would hope. And the reason that there's so much attention on Partygate is because of the things that this government has done. The only person who's responsible for all the attention on Partygate, the spending on PPE which couldn't be used, the whiff of corruption that's gone on about contracts being awarded, the only people responsible for that are the people at the heart of government, Boris Johnson. And it worries me that we have this crisis with Ukraine at the moment, that we have a cost of living crisis, and a government who we must all be aware there are questions about their capability to deal with it. And that's the issue. Partygate goes to the heart of how capable and reliable this government is.
But when it comes to these key issues that you're quite right, people really care about, and particularly the cost of living crisis at the moment that people are having to deal with day in, day out, and it's only going to get worse in the coming months. People who get in touch with us, Christine, turn around and say, well, let him get on with it, because you're not going to have a general election anytime soon. If there was a change of leader, that just adds more chaos to the system. So whether you like him in position or not, whether you think they're capable or not, they are the people who we have elected to get on with it.
Well, you must be speaking to different people from me, because when I was in North Shropshire and Chesham and Amersham for the by-elections, the other voters made it absolutely clear that they weren't happy, that they wanted a change, and that they did not like what was going on in Downing Street. And when I talk to my constituents in Edinburgh West, you know, every time I'm on the doorsteps, they say to me, what are you going to do about Boris? Because it's not acceptable that we have this government which is undermining everything in this country. The way they have behaved has begun to undermine democracy, and it is undermining our image on the world stage. Boris talks a lot about global Britain, but for global Britain to work and be effective, we need respect on the world stage. And at the moment, this government just doesn't have it.
And thinking of cost of living and energy costs and all of those sort of things, people throughout the country at the moment are probably going to be weighed down by an extra cost, and that's sort of repairing their homes after the storm damage. How bad has storm damage been in your constituency?
This time we have been lucky, because we have missed the worst of the storms so far, although we're told there's more to come this evening and tomorrow. But over the years we have had horrific damage, not just here, but right across Scotland, right across the whole country. And it does, as you say, put extra pressure on people who this year are facing a cost of living crisis, a squeeze on their incomes. And what we need is the government to be, you know, supporting people, targeting support at those areas which have been worst affected by the storms, targeting support at those people who've been worst affected by the cost of living crisis, instead of which, at a time of high inflation, we've got an income tax hike, we've got a tax hike with the national insurance increase, and, you know, incomes are being squeezed and they're falling behind in real terms. Wages have fallen behind almost 1% when we've got 5.5% inflation in this country. The government's not getting to grips with it. We need a windfall tax. We need action to make sure that families don't have to choose between heating their homes and feeding their children.
But in terms of that action, we know that Nicola Sturgeon has said the Scottish Government will provide £290 million to help people out in Scotland. She was asking Westminster for more money. You're saying the Liberal Democrats in Scotland are saying, well, the Scottish Government needs to provide a lot more money. I mean, you're all arguing about where it's going to come from.
No, what we are saying to the Scottish Government is stop trying to pass the buck. They're getting money from Westminster. Westminster, let's be clear, Westminster is not doing enough. They should be doing more. But the Scottish Government is not good enough for them to sit on their hands and say, well, you know what, we'll blame them. Get off your hands and do something. That's our message.
Before we love you and leave you, Christine, I gather we've dragged you away from the curling.
You have.
Been watching.
You have. It's in the final end, and I can see my daughter from where I'm sitting, and I'm trying to discern from her expression what's happening, and all I can get is, it's close.
Oh,
and
my
she's a bit
goodness.
worried looking, a bit excited at the same time.
Did you ever think you'd be... Eh? Oh, we're getting live score now.
I'm just checking the score. We're in the final end.
Did you ever think you'd be transfixed by curling? Do you have curlers in your constituency? You must have.
Yes, yes. Bruce Mowat, who is the skip of the British team, plays curling at Curl Edinburgh in my constituency. Jennifer Dodds, who is in the women's team, also plays there and was a neighbour of mine until recently. And you know what? I have been watching curling since I was a child, late at night on television in Scotland. It's a huge sport here. It's a wonderful sport. And, you know, the more people who get hooked by watching the Olympics and take it up, the better it will be. My team are going curling in a couple of weeks as an away day. That's how important it is to us.
Oh, well, give them our love. And you've transformed my psyche from that point of view. I absolutely love curling, and I didn't think I would. But it must be great fun seeing something that was always seen as just a Scottish thing, really. It's going in, not just national, but international, global.
Yes, the biggest place, I think in North America, it's the biggest place in the world, then Scandinavia and Scotland. But it did start, as I understand it, in Lochs in Scotland. And every stone that's used in curling comes from Ailsa Craig's off the Ayrshire coast. So we do love it here.
Oh, I never knew that.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yes.
So, Christine Jardine, MP, really good to talk to you.
Yeah, we'll let you get back to it.
There'll be more curling updates before the end of the programme. And we're talking to a veteran of the war in Afghanistan in just a moment. Stay with us.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. It is 9:32. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Steve and Anne on your TV and your radio right across the UK.
Now, to meet somebody very special, Paul Minter is taking on an epic challenge to run the entire coastline of the UK, including Northern Ireland, the Isle of Wight and the Isle of Man.
It's more than 5,000 miles. It's going to take 218 days as part of an attempt to fundraise for his new charity supporting armed forces with their mental health.
He served for 18 years with the Household Cavalry Regiment. This included 5 frontline tours of Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you for your service, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good to have you here, Paul, because it's quite, a personal journey that you've been on has been quite horrific, really, in many respects, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've done 18 years in the military, climbed myself all the way up from being a troop up to corporal major. And I've had great times in the military. It's been a great, there's so many great things you can do. But at the same time, towards the end of my time, there are consequences that come from going on the front line and doing certain things and being on the edge all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of that sort of mental health aspect, I mean, we almost don't look at it enough, do we? Because the things that you have seen and witnessed, and then also the pressure of losing brothers in arms there as well, I mean, it's a hell of a lot for someone to take on board.
Yeah, when you're young and you're kind of in the moment and you're going on these tours, you've got a great support team. You've got tens and hundreds of people around you that support you all the time. You're constantly busy. You're very, very rarely are you given time to sit back and contemplate everything that you've gone through and what you're doing. And sometimes it takes you to leave the military or just have certain things in your life to happen to bring these emotions and feelings back up again. And what people do experience, especially on the front line in the military or when you're away on tours, is you experience trauma day after day after day, and you just don't realise or associate you having trauma at the time. And it's like I say, it's not until later on that it comes to surface and problems occur.
Because you're sort of getting on with the job and you're surrounded by people going through the same thing, I suppose.
Exactly that. And there's a lot of bravado, a lot of masculinity in the military. And like I say, you're young. Most of the time, you're in your 20s, so you're not really thinking about mental health problems. Especially back then. These days, it's spoken about a lot more, but there are a lot of problems at the moment for veterans and serving personnel.
So how did this sort of manifest itself in you? How did you know you were having an issue?
So I came back from my 4th tour in Afghanistan, and I started having these real paranoia problems. I was on the train or the bus or in a restaurant, and I kept thinking everyone was talking about me, everyone was looking at me, but I kept dismissing them, saying it's not true, it's not happening. And it wasn't, and then I started to have all sorts of problems, and yeah, it just manifested from there. I started to become depressed because of the feelings I was getting. I didn't know who to talk to. I was in charge of a group of guys, and they were all looking up to me, so I didn't want to let them down by going to seek help. And I let it boil up until it got very bad.
I mean, what strikes me, I mean, looking at what you're doing now and the money that you're raising for the Heads Up charity, is the fact that you've lost quite a lot of people close to you because of suicide as a result of veterans who've decided to take their own lives.
Yeah, I've lost several close friends now, and it's just unacceptable. Most of them I didn't even know they had problems. They weren't speaking about it. They clearly didn't know where to go to, how to get the help, or didn't want to open themselves up. Since then, I know of 11 either veterans or serving soldiers just last year that committed suicide. And that's just who I know.
11 people you know?
That I know, and there's so many more. It's a real problem.
You set up Heads Up. Is that partly because for either serving or veterans that they need to be able to turn to people who understand exactly what they've been through?
Yeah, there's that, but I went through the process in the military myself, and I'm not saying it's a bad process. It's just not for everyone. And I struggled to go to a doctor. When you go and seek help, you have to do a medical evaluation, and you have to say how bad you are. And if you don't meet a certain criteria, you don't get the help that you probably need. And most people won't admit how bad they are, especially initially. And I just thought that there was a lot missing from it. And all I really wanted to do was someone to show me, okay, this is what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to try and make yourself better. I'm not looking for a victim card or for pity. I want someone to show me how to make myself better. And most military people are like that. And I think that's what's really missing in the charity sector and in the military. And it's what we want to offer in our retreat.
You're a determined bunch, you military lot. And then nothing is more determined than running 5,000 miles. What is it? 191 marathons that you're going to be running consecutively.
Yeah.
Got me neck.
It's interesting.
Crazy.
But it's interesting, isn't it, that you're turning to physical exercise in a way. I know you want to raise money by doing this, but physical exercise is a very good way of helping heal the mind, is it?
I mean, for me personally, it's when I was going through struggles. One day I was in my room for like 2 months, just laying in bed, not moving. And then I just had an epiphany and needed to get up. And the first thing I did was pick up my running trainers, and I went for a 10-mile run. And I changed my life from that day forward. So it has a real impact. You know, it really gets you out of the house, it gets you moving, it gets you, you lifting your head up and seeing the world and thinking about it. It's also a great mindfulness tool. So you're in the moment, you're not thinking about the rest of the world. So fitness has a great part to play for mental health.
You kick off on the 1st of March, which is a week on Tuesday. Are you ready? Are you geared up?
I am so ready. So this is the second attempt. So first time, I was 5 days away from about to do the run, and the second lockdown happened.
Oh.
So it's been a long time in the waiting, and yeah, I can't wait to start. There are lots of people that want to get involved, lots of people want to join in. We've already raised over £300,000 towards the retreat. So we're
300,000?
300,000. We're after £3 million by September 2023.
Where will the retreat be?
It's going to be in Worcestershire. So it's going to be a central location in the Great Britain as it can be not to put people off.
Yeah, and it'll be a place where people can go to and talk, get some therapy and physical exercise, obviously. I just can't get over the statistic that you know 11 people, veterans.
Yeah, veterans and serving soldiers.
And serving soldiers who've committed suicide. We know that suicide is the biggest killer of young men under 30 in this country, and we still don't seem to be able to do very much about it.
It's just so sad, and a good friend of mine unfortunately committed suicide, and I was like, there's nothing I could do to bring him back, absolutely nothing. And then from that day forward, I promised I'll do everything I can to stop the next person from doing it. And me and 3 others, we've co-founded this charity, Head Up. We've got a great business plan in place. Like I say, we're after £3 million to develop a 7-day positive mindset retreat by 2023. September 2023, and we're £300,000 in so far, and it's going, and we're hoping that the run's going to really help, and then the other 3 have all got great big challenges to come after mine as well.
So, I mean, how do people get involved if they want to?
So I'm running, I start on the 1st of March from Crosby in Liverpool, and I go clockwise all the way around the United Kingdom coastline, including, like you said, Isle of Wight and Isle of Man and Northern Ireland coastlines. So if you live anywhere on the coastlines, or you know anyone that does, or you just want to come and join me, you can go onto the Head Up website, the Head Up charity website. There's a dedicated page. It's got all the links. It's got all the dates and places where I'm going to be passing through. I'm going to be tracked, so it's got a tracker on there as well.
Right.
So I just want people to come join me for a little while, fundraise with me if they can, or do fundraisers somewhere else. And let's just try and get this retreat up and running because it's so important.
What do your mates think of what you're doing? I mean, and other people in the forces, obviously former colleagues as well.
I can tell you that because on there's loads of stuff online now. You're getting a lot of support from the guys in HCAV, aren't you?
I am. They're doing such a great job. Yeah, they've helped raise so much money, and they helped raise a lot of money to even get us to the point of becoming a charity, because that takes a lot of money as well.
Because I presume that you've talked it through with so many of them, obviously, to try and figure out whether what you're doing is what is needed, and they must all have a view.
Yeah, they absolutely love it. I mean, those who know me know how crazy I am. I do things like this, not like this is extreme, but I do challenges all the time. So they're in no doubt that I'm going to do it and it's going to happen. But people in the military, we are quite extreme people. I'm doing something that will make as much noise as I possibly can, try and raise a lot of money, and they're all behind it. They know the importance of it. I don't think you can find one veteran or one serving armed forces personnel that doesn't know someone that hasn't committed suicide or is really struggling.
That's just such a terrible thing.
But one thing I do want to say is I don't want people to put off by the military, because if I could go back to the military tomorrow and start all over again, I would. I love it. It's a great place to be. So I don't want people to think that, or to be scared about joining, because you don't need to be. We just need to be more educated on mental health, how to improve our mental health and stay on top of it, just like we do our physical health.
Well, do you know, it's inspirational to talk to you. The best of luck with it all. Yeah, you say you're going to smash it.
But it's wonderful. I just think it's wonderful that you're doing something that's so constructive to try and answer to be a solution. Because when you do know somebody who's committed suicide, I think of all those families, as the 11 families of the 11 people, you must feel so many different emotions, anger and helplessness and guilt as well, that you couldn't do more to help them. But you are now doing something, at least in their memory.
And I speak to family members on a daily, not weekly basis, and they're very lost. They don't understand why, and most of them they say there was no sign. They had no idea, because people in the armed forces were very proud people. So we're not going to let on. We care about people. We're protectors, so we're not going to let people know often that we've got a problem. So we will disguise it, which is why it's so important to have a retreat like we're going to have, where you can just load yourself onto the course. You don't have to have a medical evaluation. And you don't have to ask for help. All you're going to do is say, I want to better myself, and we're going to give you the tools. And then we've got an 18-month package already set up for people to continue helping themselves in a day-to-day life.
I mentioned earlier that it's, as we know, sadly, in this country, it is the biggest killer of young men. But obviously there are women in the armed forces as well. Are they similarly affected, or is it very much a young men thing?
It's very difficult to work on the statistics like that, but I do personally know females in the military who have phoned me up, who have spoken to me, and they suffer a lot. They suffer tremendously. They don't always seem to fit in the suicide bracket for whatever reason, whether maybe women are better at talking and expressing, and men trying to bottle it up for too long until it all explodes. But women, they have problems just as much as men, so it's definitely not just gender specific.
Look, I mean, we were saying you were HCAV. I hardly dare ask. Lifeguard or Blues and Royals?
Oh, Blues and Royals. But I don't mind them, whatever regiment you come from. We're all on the same team.
Blues and Royals. That's
HCAV, by the way, being Household
Cavalry.
Yeah, there you go.
Army Sport.
Blues and Royals, good man.
Yeah.
Is there a website that we can follow you on?
Yes, so our website is head-up.org.uk. But if you Google Head Up Charity, you should find it. And we've got all the social medias out there. We've got the website, we've got brochures and posters you can download. So, yeah, there's plenty going. Feel free to email or phone at any time, and I'm happy to talk to anyone. And like I say, please get involved. Please help us raise as much money as possible, because it's needed more than ever.
It really is.
Paul Minter.
Well done,
Minter.
honestly.
That's what just Minter, as everyone calls you. Really good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, let's bring you up to date, though, with what else is going on in the news. A big clean-up set to begin, of course, following the damage and disruption caused after Storm Eunice swept the UK and Ireland yesterday. The record-breaking winds killed at least 4 people and brought travel disruption, flight cancellations and power cuts across the country.
The Scottish Government is being called to go further and faster with measures to help those struggling with rising living costs. Finance Secretary Kate Forbes has already pledged £290 million in support. Scottish Lib Dems want more.
The Director General of MI5 is looking for an overhaul of the UK's espionage laws. Ken McCullum says the change is needed to tackle what he's calling a struggle for the country's values. He added that the UK's Official Secrets Act was also out of date and that the country is operating on the back foot.
2 in 5 shoppers. I love this story. 2 in 5 shoppers got a substitute in their online grocery poll, according to grocery shopping, according to a new poll. Aldi was the most likely to give you a sub, followed by Sainsbury's and Asda. The problem is what you get. Some of the stranger replacements, including duck paste instead of duct tape, and sausage rolls instead of toilet rolls.
And curling, yes, big weekend for British curling. The men's and women's teams in the final of the Winter Olympic Games, and we'll bring you up to date with that in just a couple of moments, because I gather it's a nail-biter.
So, showbiz and sport for you now. Stephanie Tetchy is at one end of the table, Aidan McGee is at the other. We'll put Anna out of her misery.
I've got to know the curling result.
We haven't got a result just yet. It's, as you say, it's a nail-biter. It's getting extremely intense. We're into the final end. It's 4-4. It's the 2 captains squaring off against one another.
Oh, so is it like penalties in football?
Kind of, yeah. It's a shootout. It's been described as a shootout.
Oh.
I mean, I'm learning things all along.
Yes,
Has been
aren't we
brushing
all?
up on my knowledge.
Oh, there you go. Lovely stuff. Stephanie, can we talk about Dame Joan Collins?
Oh, my gosh. It was like the biggest showbiz party of the week. I really wanted an invite, but it wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. I should have been on the list. Well, Dame Joan celebrated being her 20th wedding anniversary to her 5th husband, Percy Gibson, at Claridge's on Thursday. And it's actually where they got married 20 years ago. So it was such a romantic night. They have, because they said it wouldn't last, and she's proved them wrong. Maybe it's not about 3 times lucky, it's 5th time lucky for her. Also, it was 2 bashes in one, because she also celebrated her 88th birthday. But she actually turned 88 last May, but because of the pandemic and restrictions, she brought it for this event. And it was a who's who was in the room. We had Simon Cowell there with his fiancée, Liz Hurley, and also she had a Dynasty reunion with Stephanie Beecham as well.
Wow.
But the thing is, we didn't actually see any pictures of Dame Joan Collins in the night, and we know she loves a picture. She's not someone who's scared of the cameras, but she's done an exclusive deal with Hello magazine. So she was dodging.
88, she wouldn't have to somehow, but she obviously still thinks, I'll make a bit of a buck.
Yeah, why not? Go Joan. So yeah, she dodged the cameras that night, her and Percy. So we've seen all the guests that was there, but we haven't seen her in this lovely white gown that she was wearing. So they should be coming out, or everything about the party should be coming out soon.
Oh.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
88, I can't believe it.
I know.
What else have we got? Stephanie?
Oh, gosh, Wagatha Christie.
Still rumbling on.
The scandal that keeps on giving. Earlier this week, we saw that Colleen lost her bid to add Rebecca Vardy's agent into the libel case. But now the Mirror's reporting she's hired one of Britain's top cybercrime detectives, Matt Blackman, to get onto the case. He's well-renowned in the industry. He's been in the industry for 30 years.
So this is about sort of texts and emails?
Yeah, so he's been brought on to uncover more information between the texts and the messages between Rebecca and her agent. But guys, what's quite interesting about this case is the amount of money that's been spent. I know they're footballers' wives and I know they've got a lot of cash. Like this week alone, Colleen's had to fork out £65,000. But the newspapers are predicting this case is going to go up to £1.8 million. And this is
just crackers.
I saw the figure of £250,000 the other day, just because she wasn't able to, or Colleen wasn't able to advance her case. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. And it's just racking up more and more. But Rebecca's come out and she said she's not silly. She knows that this is a lot of money. So she's saying if she does win the case, she's going to donate all the money to charity. But while it's entertaining for us to, hear about this case,
terrible.
I'm like, this money could go on other things, just all to make
it's
a point.
It's eating up a lot of court time, which we're short of at the
Yes,
minute after the pandemic.
And it's such a waste of time and
really
money and
is.
effort, isn't it?
It's like, what does it prove for Rebecca?
Nothing.
Yeah, you clear your name, but you've spent loads of months doing this, and for what?
Why don't they just walk away from it in their diamond-studded heels?
Gosh. Their husbands should intervene and be like, girls, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Do something about it.
Talking about sort of bad blood, though, in the boxing, Khan versus Brook, where there's been bad blood for years.
Yeah, there has. It's going to reach a head this evening. Apparently, this grudge has been brewing for about 17 years now, and that is kind of the point in a way. I mean, this fight should really have happened when the two fighters were close to their peak, back in probably about 2010, 12 years ago, a long, long time ago. Amir Khan was in the Olympics in, 2004. Kell Brook made his kind of breakthrough just shortly after that. It was the eminent rivalry, but they never really fought each other. Both has accused the other of dodging the other in the intervening years. And finally tonight we're going to see it all come to a head at the Manchester Arena, underway from 10:30. There's an undercard before that. But yeah, I mean, this has been a very unedifying build-up as well. There have been accusations of racism, accusations of homophobia. There have been slurs here and there. It's forced the promoters to come out and actually apologise, if I want a better word, for both fighters. I mean, I can't remember the time that's ever happened before in boxing.
Do you think it's true, or do you think it's just all part of the hype?
Oh, massively part of the hype. I mean, Sky have lost a lot of boxing in the last couple of years, and I think that, in all reality, this is kind of all they've got, all they've got left. I mean, listen, I'm not saying it won't be a good fight, but there's no belt on the line. They're both struggling to meet the weight. I mean, there was £100,000 fine for each pound. They were not. They were wide of the weight. They did actually make it in the end, but it was a real struggle for both of them. I mean, I can't remember that happening for a while. But having said that, they do look in good shape. And as I say, if it's a good spectacle tonight, nobody would be too disappointed. But there will always be a little bit like when Mayweather fought Pacquiao. It should have happened much sooner.
Oh,
Who do you think's gonna take it?
I'm sorry to jump in.
No.
Looks like curling. Got silver.
Silver.
Oh.
Disappointing, isn't it?
Well, it is disappointing in a way, but it's still a silver.
Still a medal. Yeah, they've taken it right to the end. I think it could have gone. From what I saw right at the end, it was a real, getting very, very intense. It could have gone either way, and it looks like it's gone against West.
Yeah, I've just been. There's a lot of gesticulating and voices. Nobody's sure if they've reached a unanimous verdict on the best course of action, but now, apparently, yes, we have lost.
Mind you, I think you should be very proud, because I always remember my mate, who I haven't seen for ages, actually, we'll get him on the show at some point, I think next week, Chris Akabusi, who got silver in 1984 in Los Angeles. It's in his pocket 24/7, always has it with him, and it's that moment of great pride for him that he has that medal. And it doesn't matter that it's not a gold. It's
No,
a
not
silver,
really.
and it's an Olympic medal.
Also, he competed in when at the time when the Olympics was much more respected than it is now. And he competed against some outrageously talented individuals, and I suppose his silver medal, you could argue, is worth more than the gold medal now.
Yeah, well, maybe. I don't know what he'd say about that, actually.
I think the main thing is to have an Olympic
Just
medal.
to have an Olympic medal. If you've got one, fair play to you.
Well, we've still got a good chance, though, for the women's.
That's right, tomorrow, Japan. Yeah, I'm not sure the time of that. We'll have to check that for you later on.
That's the semi-finals, isn't it?
No, that's the final.
That is a final,
yeah,
sorry.
The final yesterday.
Yeah.
Team GB actually beat Sweden yesterday. That went to 12-11, I believe. So a real marathon.
So we're guaranteed another silver.
Oh yeah, guaranteed 2 medals in this. Yeah, exactly. So that's
actually
good.
this silver
But we have
is our
got some
first
pedigree.
medal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
It's our first medal in this Olympics.
we have some pedigree in it as well. Obviously, GB won in 2002.
Yeah,
years ago. Won a medal as far back as 1924 as well. So there is some background to this. It hasn't just happened overnight. We do have some. A little bit of pedigree, as I say.
Absolutely.
Mm.
In terms of showbiz, Stephanie, and little tidbits, what might we expect tomorrow? Because there's quite a bit going around at the moment. There's lots coming out at the cinema as well. I mean, there's loads of stuff. The stars are busy people at the minute.
They are. At the moment, one of the exciting film trailers that have come out this week was for Elvis.
Oh, yes.
The biopic. Are you guys Elvis fans?
Well, no,
not
but
until
the film looks
trailer. Yeah, so that is one of the films that could be coming out this summer. It stars Tom Hanks as his manager in it. And I watched the trailer this week. I was like, oh, this is going to be a really interesting story. It's going to be looking at all his life from his beginnings to his end. It's one of those things where Hollywood at the moment has just been doing biopic after biopic, but this is one that I think moviegoers have been waiting to see, and I don't think it will disappoint either.
No, it looks absolutely fab.
The lead actor guy, I can't think of his name.
It's Hank something.
But he's nailed it, hasn't he? As a young Elvis,
He looks it. When I was watching it, I was like, literally, you couldn't tell the difference between the two.
Well, Elvis was very, very talented, had a brilliant voice and was one hell of a performer.
Yeah.
He was the king.
I just think over the next few years, all we're going to be watching is all these celebrity biopics that are going to come out. It works out.
Wait till they do the Stephanie Tetchy picture.
Oh, my
There you go.
gosh.
We'll
You know,
play
that's
you, I don't know.
Who's going to play all of us in it?
I'll play myself.
Look, it's really good to see you both this morning. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Absolutely, cheers.
But that is it from us. We're back tomorrow morning at 6. Esther and Philip are here next.
Hello again, a very good morning to you. Certainly a much calmer start to the day compared to yesterday. A chilly start, yes, before more wind and rain sweeps in from the west. Not nearly as stormy as it was as Storm Eunice barreled through southern parts of the country. This little feature, an occluded front coming in with some tightening isobars on it, will bring some lively weather from the west. After a bright but chilly start, it turns wet and windy for Northern Ireland, much of Wales, Western England, and that rain falling as snow over the higher ground of North Wales, Northern England and Northern Ireland. It's accompanied by strong winds, 40, 50 mile/hour wind gusts in the south, 60 around coasts. Could still bring some impacts even if it's not as vicious as Eunice was. Lighter winds further north for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Some further rain or sleet, showers and snow over the hills. All of these systems do move through. The winds die down, clear spells at first on Saturday night. But from the west, the next area of rain sweeps in, initially for Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern and Western England and Wales. Heavier and persistent rain over the higher parts of these areas. Drier further south.